Cheers, successful 2023.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'll talk about whatever. My life's all kinds of crazy.
Hit the bell!
Because you have an Android.
Oh, yeah. That's like, this is suck.
Just subscribe already.
It was kind of something that, just with everything going on right now, like what's been going on in our community, I thought it'd be really cool to have you guys out. I didn't know, and I'm not going to dig into that just yet. I don't even know if we'll go into anything like that. But I reached out to you guys, and I thought about who the community would like to hear from. And I thought about who would come on that would be open to doing it. And we went to school together.
Right.
But Scotty, I just known, maybe not you on a personal level, but I've known you very involved in the community.
Yes.
And have you been in the Owensville community, or like in the, at least Gasconade community your entire life?
No, I was born and raised here.
Born and raised here.
Yep.
Because if I remember correctly, didn't you used to live just down the road here?
Yes.
That's what I thought. And so, like I said, I didn't know you a lot, but I was trying to think of who would be a couple good guests that I could have on that are in the law enforcement industry.
Right.
That would do a podcast, for one, because this is not a comfortable situation.
It's definitely first for us, you know, and I basically told him, Sheriff, respectfully, you're coming. Like, I need you to do this with me. So.
Well, I appreciate you coming, Scotty. I know, yeah, it's different for a lot of people, but I also think a lot of people really like to hear the perspective.
Yeah.
Just from everybody that gets to come on, because I have some really cool guests on.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's some really cool people that have been in our community for a very long time that never get to share their story.
Right.
Like they do some amazing things, and it kind of just goes unnoticed.
Yeah.
So I just had a gentleman last week, or the one that's going to be coming on the week before you guys. It's actually, so you guys will be coming out actually 2 or 3 weeks from now. But the gentleman that came on a couple weeks before, he had an awesome story that I would never have known. He's in the concrete business, and you know, it's just like, oh, just another guy laying concrete. And I don't like to say it like that, but
that's what most people think.
That's what most people would think. And I got to have him on. He was a very young, hardworking man. And come to find out, he was going to school to be a pilot. Wow. And then some financial, like that was his dream, his entire life, to be a pilot. And then like he was going to school for it. And then funding things happened. And he had to drop out of school. And he decided to start his own concrete business, and it's doing really well. But he named it after. It's called First Class Flatwork. Have you guys heard of him?
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
You haven't heard of him? Young boy, 23 years old, but he started his own concrete business at 2021. And he called it First Class Flatwork, and is named after being a pilot. And he said, he's like, I still want to go back to it. But he's like, I think his grandpa was kind of helping him.
Is he out of Washington?
He actually lives out in this area, but he lives on the line between Gerald and Leslie. Oh, so, you know, if he lived on the other side of the road, he would have went to Owensville.
Right.
But since he lived on the far side of the road.
That's where I grew up.
He went, did you really?
Highway CC, Leslie.
Okay, so he is on the other side of Leslie.
Okay.
You know, like if you're going towards New Haven.
Yeah, yeah.
He's on, because you were on.
I was on the opposite side. So.
On the opposite side. Yeah. But you weren't, you grew up on the side that at least you went to.
Yep. If I would have went a mile down the road, I would have been in the Union School District, and another mile down the opposite direction would have been Sullivan.
See, I think that's basically where he was at, where he was either New Haven or Union. Like he was right there on the line between them all. So, but he did some flat work for me. And then I had a girl named Sam Lowe on the podcast. She has a marketing business. Well, she was actually from the Gerald area. Oh, cool. And then she's young too, young entrepreneur too, and she somehow ended up in Washington area, but she recommended him. She's like, you really need to hear him out because he has a good story. I'm like, all right. And he started coming to my gym. So I was just talking to him one day. I'm like, hey, you should come on the podcast. He's like, all right. And it's funny because everyone comes on, they're like, I don't have an interesting story. Like everybody thinks they're not interesting. And a lot of these people, I know a little bit about them, like their backstory on them. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not interesting? I mean, that is very interesting to have, to me, that story. To me personally, I think that's very admirable.
Right.
Someone like that to go to school be a pilot, I think is cool.
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever do it. I'm scared of heights, so I could never do it.
I struggle enough getting on a plane, any planes. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's never fun.
No.
I don't fly very often, but it's not very fun at all.
Like I take one for the team just to get to the beach. I'm good when I get to the beach, you know.
Yeah. Do you go? How often do you go to the beach?
I would try to go once a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Summertime.
Yeah, definitely.
I
We're
do the
going
same
to Myrtle Beach for the first time here in a couple weeks. So
I've always heard that's nice.
yeah.
I've never been. I started doing. The winters are long in Missouri.
Yes, they are.
I just feel like they drag out so long, and so what I end up doing is, I used to do in December, but now it's kind of pushed back a little farther because January is my busy time at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm like trying to stick around to get through the busy season, and then February I go on vacation. But yeah, I try to go just as far south as possible because in the winter is when I need a break.
Right.
Summertime, there's plenty of things to do.
Oh yeah.
I like to go kayaking,
Yeah.
Ride four-wheelers, whatever. I'm good in the summer.
Yep.
But in the winter, I feel like basically middle of November to March, I don't really get to go outside very much. Or I don't want to if
Right.
I am.
Too cold.
It's
Yeah, I'm-
cold. You get cooped up and
Yeah, I'm running to my vehicle, hopping in there,
Yep.
and it's just nasty.
Yeah.
Like today's a nasty, rainy
Right.
day.
Yep.
And so, yeah, now I try to pick I went to Miami my first year, which, you guys ever been to Miami?
Nope.
I think I have once. I've been through Miami, but never
Yeah.
stayed there to visit. So
I wouldn't recommend it. Not unless you like that type.
like I don't know. It just seems like there's too much hustle and bustle there for me. You know.
Yeah.
Too many people.
Yeah. too
Yeah,
many people.
that's how it was for me.
Yeah.
I just always heard people talk about it, and I'm like, okay, let's see it.
I've been to Gulf Shores a couple times, and I really love Gulf Shores.
Gulf Shores is great.
Yeah.
It's a drivable distance
Right.
from us.
Yeah.
So I enjoy that because I don't mind a drive.
Right,
When
I
it's
don't
for a
either.
vacation, I don't mind driving. And there's a lot of things to do, especially if you have kids.
Yeah.
But even if you don't have kids, there's still, that's anything you can think of. There's plenty of places to eat,
Yeah.
nice beaches, they take care of it good, mini golf, stuff like that. So it's always fun.
Yep.
So I kind of want to, let's go into can we go into a little bit of backstory on both of you guys?
Let's do it.
Scotty, how long you been doing law enforcement? How long you been in law enforcement?
20 years.
20 years. And what got you into it?
A friend of mine, to be honest with you. He's a sergeant over in Franklin County.
And what were you doing before it?
Going to school.
Just going,
School.
were you just going to school? Oh, you're going to high school.
Yeah, we were in high school, and
So as soon as you graduated high school, you got in law enforcement.
yeah, we were in the Explorer program through Franklin County Sheriff's Office. So we just done that, and then went to college, and realizing college wasn't for me, so I just went straight into the academy.
Cool. So you had a friend that got you into it.
Yep.
Was he older or was he the same age as you?
Same age.
Same age.
He's from here too. Jared Blankenship. I don't know if you know him. Mm-mm. His mom and dad just lives on Blocks Branch, family farm forever.
Oh, really?
He's cousins with Ross.
All the Blankenship Ross and
Oh, really? And he lives on Blocks Branch?
yeah.
I should know that because my grandma lives out on Blocks Branch. You know that?
I didn't know that.
She's how far that is? We better not go into detail on that. But yeah, my grandma lives out
We don't know
there.
who your listeners are.
Yeah, you just never know. It's probably best to keep that
Right.
private. Yeah, I never knew that. But I also, a lot of law enforcement, I feel like they come and go. Unless you're from the area. When guys start out,
Especially now, with everything that's going on in the world with law enforcement, we're highly scrutinized and, guys just figure out, it's fun at first, but then they realize everything that comes with it, a lot of the negativity,
yeah.
they figure out it's not for me. I don't want to deal with the hassle. And so they find something else to do.
Yeah, is it hard to even get new hires?
It can be, yes. Luckily, I think for us at the sheriff's office, Scott does a really good job of bringing people in and building that environment that is welcoming and making it like a family. And
Yeah.
I think that's what we've been fortunate to keep a lot of our staffing, I think, because of that. And that's what I think it is. He may have a different reason, but I think it's because he does a fantastic job as our sheriff. So
Can you explain to me the difference between, because you guys are sheriff's department, right? What's the difference between sheriff department and a town? Because you guys don't go to a town to check in, right? You guys are Gascony County.
It's all jurisdiction is all it is. We all went to the same academy, same schooling. Some goes to 860, 640 is what you have to have now for post-recommend training.
Okay.
We all go same
Number of
training.
hours.
It's just jurisdiction. If you're a municipality, your jurisdiction is just a municipality. If you're the highway patrol, you're the whole state of Missouri, but they break that down into zones. And then if
Gotcha.
you're in the county, then you have the whole county outline. You
And
can
that's what
patrol-
you guys are.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
You
we
guys
can
do the whole county.
We do everything within the county. If it's a municipality, we don't do city ordinances, but like if we're in city of Rosebud or Bland or Owensville or Herman, and we see a traffic violation, we have all right to stop that and write them a ticket for that traffic.
Sure.
Through a state charge, we can't write municipality charges, where the city municipalities they issue a citation and they would send it to their municipal court.
So that'd be something just. What would something like that be?
So like a tall grass ticket or
Yeah, okay.
a peace disturbance, which we have peace disturbance for the state as well, but
Anything.
a lot of code violations, like parking violation on the city street or something
Yeah.
like that, you know.
I remember when I lived in town, I had I don't remember what it was called.
Barking dogs, stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, mine was just like, I didn't actually get a ticket. It was just a warning.
Right.
But I had I think it was called a Geo Tracker. It was like a 4-door SUV.
Yeah.
Small one, but it's full drive, and I bought it to just do some off-roading in, and it was ugly. The windows broke out of it. I understand why I got the thing, but I had it sitting on the side of the road because my driveway was full.
Didn't have plates on it or anything.
I didn't have plates on it. I just bought it, and
City ordinance, yeah.
yeah, and they're like, hey, you gotta get this.
Most cities have something like that where you can't have dilapidated vehicles on the
Yeah.
parked on the city street, but
Sure, and yeah. So I was kind of thinking that's probably.
yeah. So
What
stuff
else
like
is
that
there?
we can't really enforce, but like your main crimes that you would think of naturally are like what you would see on TV, like your assaults, your rapes, your domestic assaults, your stealing, your burglary, stuff like that. Those are all things that we deal with on a daily basis. So
As far as coming from, like on the career side of it, does doing something like that does a lot of people start out like just in town, like as an in town cop, and then go to
It all depends where you want to be. I mean, some people go straight into Franklin County Sheriff, some come straight here. I started my career in Gasconade County.
for the sheriff's department?
For the sheriff's office, and at that time I didn't CII with the sheriff, so I went to Owensville Police Department.
Oh, okay.
Change, and then, I worked there for a little bit and then went back to the sheriff's office. So, I mean, it all depends what you want to do in law enforcement. And like what I tell the new recruits is pick an agency where you want to go in life. If you want to be a K-9, you don't want to go to a department that don't have a K-9.
Sure.
Because if you go to a department that don't have a K-9, for instance, and you spend 5 years, get your feet on the ground, and then you go to a bigger department, you're just starting over.
yep.
So if you go to a department that has a K-9 program established,
Yeah.
you might as well go to that department and work your way up the line.
Yeah.
Tough it out and just
So there's you can start out basically wherever you want.
Yeah.
wherever. It ain't my
just-
place to hire. Like when I came out of the academy, I had like 15 applications out there. So,
Gotcha.
but it was hard at that time. I mean, everybody was full.
Yeah.
Now it's
Used to, like
everybody's hiring. So
even when I got out of the academy, it was hard to find a job. It took me, I think, 4 months to get an opening here at Gasconade County. I could have had a job somewhere else. Herman PD at that time had offered me a position, but I knew I didn't want to burn that bridge because I knew where I would end up, and I knew I would go to the sheriff's office as soon as I had an opening. But I did have to wait 4 months after the academy. So
Does it, like, if you got a job at, say in Herman, if you got a job there, does that do they not want to pull you from where you're at? Like, say if you really wanted to work for the sheriff's department, but you're working in Herman, does that almost make your application look a little lower because?
no.
No, nothing like that.
nope.
In a way, it helps you if your ultimate goal to be in Gasconade, you want to work for the municipality, and they don't have an opening. It's because the deputies work with each other
Yeah.
so often and back up because the man staffing and all that. We don't have the man staffing like we should be. So we work along side by side with the municipalities. So if somebody says from Owensville, "Hey, I want to go to the county," and the deputy say, "Hey, there's some reason why they don't want them," they will express their opinion and say, "Hey, I would not recommend hiring that person."
Well, I think that's important for us too, or at least for you as an administrator and the sheriff. A lot of times you don't know who you're hiring. You get an application, you go through these procedures of like an oral board and talking to the individual and seeing what their background is. And you think you get a good feel for who they are, but you really don't know. And in law enforcement, it's really hard to deal with because you have to hire the right people.
Yeah.
You have to be able to trust them.
Yeah.
And if you don't know them, you just
Because they're literally your partners.
Right. I mean, you're working with, you got to trust them with your life every day.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you don't know them. So I think it helps the sheriff and the sheriff's office in general if we're working with these municipal officers on a daily basis because they're in our county, like Owensville PD, Herman PD, and they eventually, show interest in wanting to work for the sheriff's office. We kind of get that phase out of the way where we're not hiring somebody we don't know. We know them because we've already worked with them, even though they work for a different agency. So we get that FTO process almost out of the way as far as, all the cobwebs and getting getting them kind of going, and you know what to expect if you hire them.
Right.
Versus just hiring somebody off the street that you don't know and you've never worked with. So it does kind of help there, which can also be, there's a downfall to that is, we don't want to be stealing all the employees from our municipalities because they lean on us just like we lean on them for help,
Yeah.
So.
But you guys still go and assist.
Yeah.
Often.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Right? So in a way, it's not really stealing. In a way it is, but
they still have to have their positions filled. So, I'm sure those chiefs can get frustrated if their employees leave and come to the county. It's, 99% of the time it's not intentional.
is there a pay increase too?
Well, the time has changed.
Yeah.
Back when I first started, everybody wanted to work for the county because the county was all the good calls. The pay was a little bit better at the time. It's take-home car, better equipment. Now the time has changed. Now the municipalities are stealing from the county.
Wow.
So because they got better pay, better insurance.
You
now.
wouldn't think that, but are they able to use the city taxes to help pay for it? Is that what it is, or how does that paying get broke down?
It varies. I mean,
Yeah.
we pass a law enforcement tax, but municipality has more money than a county government agency. It don't matter where you are.
You got to think about
you can go St. Louis County, Creve Coeur, Kirkwood, Sunset Hills. They just got a lot more money than they do.
If you're looking in a geographical area as far as taxes, you got to look where the population is because that's where your tax base is. Look where all the industry is. Well, if you think about Gasconade County, where's all of our industry? Most of the time it's in a municipality. Like we have Walmart in Owensville.
Yeah.
Herman, you have all the tourism. So that's your tax base. Outside of those municipalities, we're talking farms and rural area, they aren't really bringing in a lot of taxes. So the county's tax base is much smaller as far as law enforcement goes than what you would expect from your city. So, you have those bigger tax bases at the city level to be able to have a little bit better budget or be able to fund your department a little bit better. So,
yeah, it's interesting how the times have changed.
Yeah.
Because I would just naturally, I would assume that the county would pay more, but it makes sense.
Right.
Once you guys break it down like that, because they're using the city tax dollars to help fund the police, and I think that's needed.
well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, think of the alternative if we didn't have law enforcement. I mean, there's some people that I think they believe they could do it on their own, protect themselves and their family on their own, and that's fine. But
that's all fine and dandy until you actually need it.
There's people out there that can't and aren't capable of doing that, so we're there for everybody.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
and the ones that think they can do it on their own, they've never had to do it on their own.
right. I mean,
That's the whole
very
thing.
few people have been put in a situation where they've had to stand their ground and protect their own, and they've come out on the other side talking about it. So, you just never know what to expect or who you're going to deal with. So
it's easy to be tough before you're in the situation.
Right, yeah.
Dude, I just had the other day, it was a Friday night, and it was literally Friday night. I just stayed up. We just watched TV. I think I was working on my podcast down here, so I was hanging out. Maybe just like smoke a cigar or something, just hanging out. And then it was like, I think 11, 12 o'clock at night. I think it was closer to 12 o'clock at night. I'm going to bed. I have my TV on. I watch TV before I go to bed. And I can hear a noise, like someone talking gibberish over my TV. And it's kind of crazy that you would think you can hear anything over a TV, but I could hear something. I'm like, what the hell is that? So I pause the TV and I'm like, is there somebody out there? And I'm looking outside, and sure enough, it's some dude walking down the road, hoofing it. He's talking, but he's not actually saying anything. And you could tell he had like a cell phone or something with the light on, and he's just flinging his arm all around. And
I got the text message from when that call came out. So.
Oh, really? It creeped me out.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because where I live outside of town, and nothing. It's one thing if someone's walking around in town.
Right. You expect that
I kind of expect that. But at midnight, 1 a.m.
in a rural area.
in a rural area, what are they coming from?
Right.
And where are they going? Because all I know is I hear, and he was on the road,
Right.
wasn't in my yard, but at this time, all I know is I hear it coming through my yard. His voice is traveling through my yard. Can't pick up what he's saying. It's not like he's holding the flashlight, just looking at the road, walking like he broke down. That's one thing.
Right.
If he looked like somebody that was just struggling, I might actually get in my truck, drive up, and say, "Hey, can I help you?"
Right.
But this guy was his light was flaring all over the place, and I could not make out a single word. And yeah, at that point,
Drugs are bad.
yeah, drugs are bad. Don't do drugs, kids.
Right.
Because it had to be that. I could not imagine, even if he was drunk, I couldn't imagine doing that. That's the only thing. So that's what goes on in my head.
Right.
Because now it's midnight. I was in my boxers,
Right.
so now I got to put on clothes because
Yep.
I just caught this guy. But in my head, what's this guy actually up to? Is he trying? I mean, when someone's on drugs, and I don't know, I've never had to deal with a lot of people on drugs, but I couldn't imagine they're thinking straight. And the only thing in my head is, I'm thinking the worst.
Right.
Right? I'm hoping for the best, but I'm thinking the worst. And I'm thinking they're going to come down my driveway,
Right.
and then what?
You don't know what their intentions are. I mean, you don't know if they're coming to steal from you or to,
Yeah.
try to harm you.
Yeah.
You have no idea what to expect. So
Yeah. I imagine that they're
you just know it's not normal.
Yeah,
right?
and they're close. My house isn't that far off the road. Whereas if they decide to make a right hand turn, start walking through my yard to my house, now it's like, all right, I got to do something.
Right.
So then your adrenaline starts going a little bit, and so that's what anymore. I always, it's such a weird thing for me because I don't call 911 very often.
Right.
So sometimes I feel like it's for emergencies only, and I'm like, is this an emergency? Because I feel like it is. It could easily turn into an emergency.
They're unpredictable.
Right.
Exactly, and that's where I'm like, yeah, let's just call it. And
Well, that's what we try to get through to people. There's a lot of people that they'll see stuff like that. They just won't call. They don't feel comfortable calling. We want people to call that stuff in because chances are that guy that's messing around out in front of your house might not do anything to you or your property. Maybe your neighbor. He might go down there and steal from your neighbor or harm them or do something. And if you don't call,
nothing gets reported.
Nothing gets reported, and we're kind of reactive at that point instead of proactive. So if people call us when they see something, we can get here as fast as possible and try to prevent anything further from happening.
Yeah.
So
what did you hear any more of the follow up on?
So
that call?
I believe they
know?
made contact with him, but it was one of those things. I think he might have claimed to have broke down, but definitely was probably under the influence of something.
Okay.
So
Yeah, because I don't know what ended up happening, but all I do know is I stayed on the line with 911 until an officer came by. But because, they're like, do you want me to stay on the line? I'm like, I think we should, because if it does make the wrong turn.
right, at least you have it documented and recorded.
Yeah, I don't want it to be my word against this dude's word.
Right.
Because somehow it'd probably get twisted and I come out on the wrong end of it.
Right.
And so I'm like, let's just stay on the phone because this guy is clearly not in the right mind. And then I remember watching them they did keep walking past my house and just crest over the hill. But then when the officer came by, they had the lights on and stuff. They said they didn't see a thing. So I don't know. I don't know how they ended up getting in contact with him, but I know the guy was clearly trying to evade.
Right.
In some way, because there was nowhere to go.
Right. Yeah.
Where they would have passed at, there was nowhere to go.
And a lot of times you get stuff like that where people just walk into the woods and hide.
That had to be what he did. And that was the only thing around.
Right.
And then now it sounds like I'm the crazy guy calling something in because they're like, I can't find nothing.
Like, I swear I saw something.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not crazy. I know there is somebody up there, and
It happens.
yeah.
We, like I tell citizens, call. You see something, call us. It's a documentation on our end that we know where they're hanging out at.
Right.
And then if we can make contact and then a weekend home got broken into, at least now we have somebody to go talk to.
We
Sure.
can put somebody in that area,
You can kind of trace things like, hey, at 1 o'clock, we got a call for this person at this place.
Right.
And 9 out of 10, we probably know them. So,
Sure, because
At least we have
it's
a name.
reoccurring.
yeah.
But I think,
It's the same clientele.
right.
Sure.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
But I think for the sheriff and I specifically, I know how much our phones go off, and I think that's attributed to us growing up around here, going to school here, people will call us directly because they know us and they have our number, or they'll message us on Facebook to report something. And we don't mind answering our phone because we're public servants and we care about the community. So we want to get that taken care of as soon as possible for that person. But I try to stress to people that even though it's convenient to call me or call the sheriff directly, it is better to go through the proper channels through dispatch. So that's all documented, because nothing's documented with us when you call us directly on our personal line. So we try to tell people, hey, even though you got that avenue, if there's something and you're in need of law enforcement, don't call us direct.
Yeah.
Call dispatch.
Yeah, that's a great example of why you need to call.
Right.
So there is documentation. Can you text 911?
You can.
You can.
You absolutely can.
Like,
so you go on your phone, like you'd put a number at the top, 911. You put 911 on the top, start your message, send it, they'll receive it, and they'll respond back.
wow.
Almost immediately. So
How cool.
yeah.
How cool is that?
I think they've had that set up within the last
Few years.
probably 5 or 6 years. I bet they've had that going.
Yeah, people think about that. If you're in a situation,
Yeah, if you're like,
even if like,
let's say in a domestic situation where, the abuser is not allowing you to make any phone calls, or you don't want to raise any suspicion or
Yeah.
bring more harm to yourself, if you can go into the bathroom with your cell phone and send a simple text, we're there,
yeah,
without that person even knowing. So I think it's definitely a handy tool for people to know that we have.
I was thinking about a time with Mason, actually, because I got to know Mason just through Rosebud. I had some rental properties in Rosebud and got to know him through that. And I remember when I had talked to him, he gave me his business card. He wrote his personal number on the back.
Yep.
He's like, if you ever have any questions,
Yep.
give me a call, shoot me a text. And I was driving home one day, and there was this crazy maniac driving a car. It was an old junker, like, I can't remember. What was the old police cars?
Oh, Crown Vic.
It was like an old Crown Vic, but I think it was actually like a Lincoln. And this is years ago. But I was coming out of a business up a hill, and the top of the hill crested where you can't see nothing at the top. And terrible spot. This guy comes flying down a hill, comes around me, I'm going up the hill, just comes flying around me, going up the hill as it's cresting, so you can't see nothing at the top. And I backed off. I was going whatever the speed limit was, but I backed off.
That's what everybody says, just so you know.
Well, whatever. I was pulling out of a business. I probably wasn't even up to speed yet.
Right.
But he's just bahaing it down through there and flew up the hill, and I'm like, what the hell was that?
Right.
And I start to I keep following this dude, and he's passing everybody on corners and just like in the craziest spots. And it was from Owensville to Rosebud, and I didn't know what to do at that time. And I did the same thing. I texted Mason. I said, hey, this dude's gonna kill someone. Like, he's legit gonna kill someone, because he don't even care about passing when it's a passing zone.
Right.
He's just passing whenever he wants. I'm like, you might want to just see what the hell's going on here, because he might not even make it to Rosebud. And by the time he made it to Rosebud, he did slow down, and I don't think he even ever got pulled over.
Yeah.
But I'm like, dude,
Well,
this
that's the hard part,
guy's
too,
gonna
is
kill someone.
You got to think about it. In Gasconade County, there's roughly 16,000 residents.
Close to it.
Pretty close to 16,000 residents. And if you're counting all of our full-time municipalities, so Herman and Owensville, plus the sheriff's office. Sheriff's office, depending on the time of day, if it's at night, chances are we probably have at least 2 on. But there's times where we don't have a lot on, many officers on. And the municipalities, they're obligated to stay in their jurisdiction in town. So if you get something like that where they're, going in between municipalities, if we have a deputy north, like towards Herman, it's going to take them a half hour to even get there to try to check the area.
Yeah.
So you have to be in the right place at the right time for a lot of those careless drivers, and sometimes we're just not in the area. Our troopers in this area, their zone, Troop F Zone 12, they cover 2 counties. A lot of people don't understand that. We have probably 6 troopers in this zone, and those 6 troopers cover Osage and Gasconade County.
Wow.
So you're talking Meta, a little town of Meta or Freeburg, all the way east of Herman. Mm-hmm. Those are the furthest points.
Yeah.
It could take them almost an hour to get to. Even let's say you're in a serious accident. The troopers are going to be responding for a serious accident with injuries. It's going to take them a while. So
Yeah.
a lot of times we do get on scene before they do, but it's going to take them a while. Mm-hmm. Think about if we're not available and you're needing law enforcement assistance right away. the reality of it is we live in a rural area, and it can take us a while to get to you. So,
Sure.
you know, that's
Now, can a city cop, can they how far they can travel out of town, right? Well, the other day when I made that call,
Yes,
that was a city cop that came out and,
Yep.
and patrolled that, right?
Yep.
They're allowed to do that.
as long as without permission.
Yep. So there's they're called mutual aid agreements, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have mutual aid agreements with a lot of neighboring agencies where we can assist them in going to their county with that prior agreement already signed by all the bigwigs and all the people in charge, and that as well as us, you know, like, so if we need their assistance, you know, like, I think, do we have a mutual aid agreement with Osage?
We have them all,
Basically,
probably all surrounding us. I mean, if any county or municipality call for help, we're gonna go. Whether we
Yeah.
have an agreement or not,
Right.
it don't matter. I
Yeah,
mean,
you
if
guys
we have
are-
a big incident, they'll come. You don't even have to ask.
yeah, they're just
They're
coming.
just gonna show up and say, "What can we do?"
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, because that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you help out.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, but you're not patrolling it, but
Right.
on a serious call, yeah,
Serious call. Yeah,
you're going over there.
Yep.
Gotcha. That makes sense because he got here quick.
Yeah.
Like I didn't, I was like, I don't know how long it's going to take someone to get out here.
Right.
But yeah, it was. I mean, they got on it very fast. But I see how that could be a huge problem.
Yeah.
Because just luck of the draw
Yeah. Yeah. You just
where
never, you never
the officer
know.
is.
You just never know.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
You know, I remember starting out, you know, we get a call up in Morrison, Missouri, west of Herman, like 20 minutes. And it's nothing but curvy roads, and there's only one good way to get there, really.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're south of Owensville, and you got to run lights and sirens to get there as fast as you can, well, not as fast as you can, but it used to be 85 miles an hour according to policy, right, Sheriff?
Still is.
Still is. So, but at 85 miles an hour, responding to Morrison for someone in an emergency, it's still going to take you 35, 40 minutes to get there.
Because you can't even go 85 the whole way.
No.
There's a lot of corners where.
I mean, there's sharp curves, county roads. I mean, it's
yeah.
can't drive 85 the whole way. So I mean, and people get there's times where people get frustrated with us, like, well, what took so long? You know, we expect you to be here, and it's like, you don't know where we're coming from.
Yeah.
You know, we try to have people positioned in the county most times where no matter where the call comes out, we can get to you rather quick with at least one deputy, but you just never know what we have going on. So
Yeah. So Lynn, let's how long you been in the law enforcement?
I'm going on 9 years.
9 years.
Yeah.
And you did it right out of high school too, right?
Yeah, so basically right out of high school, I did have some general education college that I got out of the way. Kind of bounced around, didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I always had interest in law enforcement. I actually tried to get into a physical therapy program, believe it or not,
Oh, okay.
and I got denied because I'm not as book smart as my wife. So we were trying to get into the same physical therapy program. They denied me, and I was like, well, crap, what am I going to do? I mean, I don't want to wait a year to apply for the program again. Like, I got to do something now. You know, I'm at that time, I was probably 20 years old. And I'm like, why don't I just try to be a cop? I know a few other people, and I knew Scott a little bit. And I was like, why not try to go to the academy? Let's see what it's about. If I don't like it, I'll just find something else to do.
Yeah.
9 years later, I'm here, and most of the time I enjoy what I do, you know. So
you fell in love with it immediately.
yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of crazy, you know. Scott was my mentor coming into law enforcement. You know, because I knew Scott a little bit, and I didn't know him well. We weren't great friends or anything before I got into law enforcement, but I still knew him. He was the person that I used as kind of like a mentor through that process. And went through the academy, and I was working like 3 jobs during the academy, and went to the academy part-time. So it took a lot of my time, but got done with the academy. Like I said, I did apply to a few places. I applied to like New Haven Police Department, Herman Police Department. Herman offered me a job right away, and I was like, I appreciate it, but I know where I want to be. I want to work in Gascony County where I live, and I know a lot of those guys there. I think that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
Didn't have any openings, so but I had inclination from the captain at that time, like, hey, we got an opening coming up in a few months. If you can hold off, don't burn a bridge in Herman by taking a job and leaving right away, because that's a fast way to do it. So
Yeah.
it's like, you know what? I'll keep flipping burgers at Clancy's for a little while until this opening comes up.
Yeah, I forgot you did that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
all the way through high school. But so anyway, I ended up getting offered a position full time as a road deputy in Gascony County. I think 2014 or 2015, and it kind of worked out because I knew Scott, and he was a sergeant, and he ended up being my sergeant. So he was my field training officer right out of the gate. So he kind of took me under his wing and showed me the ropes and showed me how to be a cop, and which, in my opinion, he was a great example to kind of fall under, because he was similar to me as he was from the area. He knew everybody. And we tell this story quite often. We would go on calls, and I would try to learn by doing stuff, and nobody would give me the time of day to even talk to me, even though they probably knew me. They knew Scott better. So I try to talk to somebody, and they walk right past me and go to him and start talking to him. And I'm like, how am I gonna learn? How am I gonna get any better at my job if everybody's talking to you?
Yeah.
So finally, I had to start telling people, you need to talk to him. So.
Yeah, I bet that is a challenging.
Yeah.
So when you're saying they went past you, like in what instance?
So,
They would just walk right past them.
They'd walk right past. Just not being rude, but you get two officers show up on the call together. If you have that personal connection, like if I show up to your house because you need law enforcement assistance, and you have another officer that you don't know, you're going to go straight to me. Chances are, right? Because you feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
When people want law enforcement assistance, they want to. Obviously, it's probably not a great situation where they need us most of the time. They want that safe haven or somebody that they can connect with easier because they already have some sort of connection with knowing them.
Yeah, they feel like maybe they're either going to be able to communicate, or maybe they're going to be able to get
Right.
just better assistance.
Right.
Like.
So you trust them a little bit more because you obviously know them a little bit versus some guy you've never met before.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's
Well, that's a big reason why I wanted both of you guys out here.
Right.
Because I felt like I just knew you enough from going to school with you, and like we weren't super close or nothing,
Right.
but I at least known you enough that I thought I could sit down and have a conversation with you.
right.
And then Scotty, I just known you because everybody knows Scotty Eiler.
Everybody knows him, right?
I mean, everybody's just known you, and like anytime, I never heard anything bad.
Right.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because you hear a lot of, why do they all catch a bad rap? Like, why does a lot of cops catch a bad rap? Is it just the mentality of the people that are giving them a bad rap, or is there some bad apples too?
I go with the ego.
The ego that comes with it.
There's some that comes into the field and they put that badge on, and automatically they think they're better than everybody else.
Yeah.
When I train people, that badge don't make you better than nobody else.
Yeah, you're still human.
The only people that we're dealing with and we have interaction, they're having the worst time in their life at that moment. There's no need to go and be the macho man and whatever and talk to them a way that they should not be treated.
Yeah.
They should be treated like you'll treat anybody else, rather they commit a big crime or they have their dog stolen.
Yeah.
You treat them people the same.
Sure.
If you treat them people the same, you will succeed in this career.
Yep.
Yeah.
You will get more information. People will talk to you. You'll be at Walmart and people will come up and talk to you. I arrested an individual multiple times. Multiple. Went hands-on, had an altercation with them, but we treat them with respect. I did.
Respect goes a long way.
We go Walmart, my wife and kids, they'll come up, hey, I'm clean, how you doing, Sky? How's the family doing?
Yeah.
Sure.
But if you treat them with disrespect,
They'll remember that.
they're going to remember that. Then when you're at Walmart and you see them, now you're like, what is he going to do? I have my kids with me. I'm off duty. He thinks you don't have that badge. You just wait till you take that badge off, And now you're at Walmart with face-to-face with this guy, walking down the same aisle. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are they going to do,
Yeah.
And a lot of
If you
people,
treat them well, I think you don't have to worry about that. I don't worry about going to anywhere besides. I really don't worry about anywhere, but you go to the bar. My guys are not allowed to go to the bars in the county because those are the clientels that we arrest for DWIs.
Sure.
They're intoxicated and they go home and get in domestics and that's the stuff. And then it don't look good on us if we go to the bar, even have one drink, and then taking a run of your friends intoxicated home. Even though we only had that one drink, but it looks bad for us to get behind the wheel and take our other person home that should not be driving.
we can go to the
We
bar
just arrested them.
and not have a drink, and it's the perception of us being there.
Yeah.
Oh well, he's a sheriff's deputy. He's a cop in this county, and he's hanging out with the rest of the people in the bar, and he's driving home. And even if you don't, let's say even if you're sober and you don't even drive home, like people are just going to naturally formulate that belief or opinion that
Guilty by association.
Right.
kind of thing.
So
It is. And I'm not saying they can't go. We go. I mean, I go Bogies. I go Clancy's.
right.
I mean,
But
Clancy's got some damn good food.
That they do.
yeah, but just
I
like,
still think they have the best food in the area,
It's-
personally.
It's
but
good.
just like you say, hey, it's Scotty Eiler.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
I know these people. I grew up with them. I played pool at Bogies all throughout my high school and before I became it. When I was starting my cop, we played pool at Bogies every Saturday night.
Right.
It just when you put the badge on, people treat you different. You lose friends, you lose family.
Sure.
They treat you different.
But-
Now you're one of them guys.
A lot of it's on them not taking responsibility for things too, right?
Yeah,
Like when you arrest someone that is drinking and driving,
Yeah.
or even let's not even say that. Let's just say they're speeding. They're going 70 in a 55, and you give them a speeding ticket. They're mad at you guys, but at the end of the day, it's like the law.
Yeah, I mean,
like
if you're
in-
going to speed, you got to understand that you're taking that risk personally. That the cop may be right around the curve or right over the hill.
Yeah.
To issue you a ticket, and I know I can speak for myself at the sheriff's office. We're not here to write everybody tickets and ruin their day. We just want to make sure that we're there for the public and making sure everybody's safe. And a lot of people don't really think the traffic violations matter all that well, but they do, because maybe you're not dangerous in the way that you're speeding, but you never know what's going to happen.
And there
We
needs
all
to be an
know-
example set too, right?
Right.
Even at my gym, I mean, it's on two totally different levels, and barely comparable. But at my gym, if I let someone sneak in, or let their friends sneak in with them, and they get a free gym membership, and I let that get away,
Everybody's going to expect it.
everybody's going to expect that they can just come for free. So I have to ban that person
Yep.
right there and make an example out of
You
it. Or like the person that's being a nuisance out in the gym, just slamming weights, grunting, maybe using chalk, getting it all over the place. I don't want to have to go out there and tell them, like, hey, can you quit slamming the weights because you're making other people feel uncomfortable. I don't want to have to do that, but I have to go say it because I'm like, I have to make an example out of it, or you guys will never. Everybody will start doing it.
They'll take advantage of it.
Yeah, and then nobody will keep coming to my gym because it's an uncomfortable place for them.
Right.
It's just like life. You give it an inch, they'll take a mile.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just the way how people are raised and how people just naturally, that's just the way it is,
Yeah, I think people need to start. So that was a big changing point for me in my life, was taking responsibility for what I did. Like
Right.
for whatever happened, it was always on me.
Right.
Once I started doing that, my life got a whole lot better.
You start thinking about those little decisions that you typically would be like, oh, it's not a big deal. You start thinking about it whenever it falls on your shoulders,
Yeah,
What are my repercussions
yeah,
if I make this choice? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people, they don't think that way. I don't know if it's because they're not matured enough or just because they've been allowed to, have somebody there in their corner to pick them up when they make those bad choices. But sometimes you have to fall and pick yourself back up to figure it out.
In law enforcement, we don't make the right decisions every time.
No.
There's been numerous times that I made the wrong decision, and they came back, and I made up to the citizens. Hey, I made a wrong call. I made that bad decision. That's on me.
sure.
Yep.
I apologize. Can't change it now. But that's on me. I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to move on. It's never happened again.
Can we talk example on it maybe? Or maybe want to stay away from examples?
No,
Are you saying maybe just like giving a ticket whenever you should have maybe given a warning?
no, I would say, domestic disputes are the ones that can tie up a person quickly.
Oh,
A
okay.
deputy in a way, or an officer. You went to domestic, I believe one person over another.
Sure.
I don't remember if I was bad mood or whatever it was. And I took the other statement more serious than the other one.
Yeah.
Well, it showed up that it was all on video,
Yeah.
and the guy provided the video to another deputy when I was off duty after being arrested and all that stuff, and it came back to bite me in the butt, really, and said, hey, she was more believable than you are.
Yeah.
I
understand that.
And it was actually the way around. I took her to jail, not him.
Huh.
And a lot of guys, it's domestic, it's always her or him. It was the other way around.
Yep.
I took her to jail, and it was actually him that was being the
Aggressor.
Yeah.
So I had to tell her, hey, I screwed up on this one. I made the wrong choice. My fault.
But you got to make the best call. You got to make the best decision.
I made it right, and we end up dismissing her charges, talked to the prosecutor, dismissing, and refiled on him with the new evidence that was provided. So we made it right, but at the time, we had to make those decisions pretty
I feel like
quick.
that's understandable.
It's
Because, like, at least
If
you
you're
righted
that
the
person,
wrong.
if you're that person that you feel like you were wrongly arrested or you weren't the aggressor in that situation, and the officer didn't believe you or didn't take your side. Now, what opinion is that person going to form of that individual officer?
Yeah.
It only takes one time for somebody to get a negative opinion, and then for them to talk to somebody else and say, well, that officer's this or that officer's that. And then, you quickly build a negative name for yourself in law enforcement. Nobody wants to talk to you. Nobody wants to deal with you. And he knows as well as I do, it's very hard for us to get our job done and do it well without the cooperation of citizens and citizens trusting us. That's how we solve a lot of our cases is people trusting us and calling us and telling us, hey, this is what's going on.
I mean, we're good at our job, but we're not that great of a job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times that we solve crime, it's not
It's a lot of times
police
it's luck.
doing the work. It's people calling us saying, hey, I don't want to be involved, but this is who did it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you say, how? Got to have some type of evidence to get a prosecution.
Yep.
And they said, they described some incident that no one else would know unless they knew something about the case.
Right.
And then you can believe them. I mean, I tell citizens, so you don't have to give your name.
No.
Yeah.
You can call and say, I'm not giving my name, but this is.
When I made that call the other day, I told them my name. I was like, they asked for my name. I said Ryan, and they're like, would you like to give me your last name? And I'm like, oh yeah, Wilson. Like,
Sorry.
I didn't, I just had things going on.
Right.
And I was like, I wasn't trying to keep my name from you guys. I'm like, there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm trying to watch this dude. And I think even still with this, I'm like, in that situation on both ends, as on the police officer's end and the guy that's getting in trouble, even if the dude that got arrested was what shouldn't have been arrested. It's like if I was in that position, I would still would have looked at it as I was still in the situation.
Right.
So sure, maybe I didn't do it and I got in trouble for it, but I also was in the situation.
Right.
I'm not getting arrested. I'm getting arrested because I put myself in a dumb situation, and I know.
Well, maybe even you didn't put yourself in the dumb situation. Maybe you're just there, and it kind of evolved into a situation like that. But once you know you're in a volatile situation like that, remove yourself.
Yeah.
Don't stick around and argue back or participate.
Yeah.
Because it's only going to get worse. It's only going to snowball from there. Just remove yourself.
Yeah.
That's what we tell people.
Yeah, I agree. Because
You can't go wrong. Like,
It's easier said than done.
it is easier.
Yeah, you're right.
Think about it. There's emotions involved, and
especially for a man too. And it's
men we typically want to get our point across, and so it's hard for us just to bite our tongue and walk away.
Well, I feel like as a woman maybe that's getting abused, she can't actually sometimes maybe not able to physically get out of a situation.
Right.
Because they're a lot of times smaller.
Right.
Depending on how the abuse is going. I'm sure it's not as easy for a woman just to get up and push the guy out of the way and walk out the door.
Yeah.
So as a man, I can say most of the time she's going to have to be a pretty strong woman to stop me
The
from
only
walking
person-
out the
Well,
door.
like you said, you put yourself in that position. There's numerous times we arrested on a domestic. We've been there multiple
Yeah.
times. We tell them, this ain't working out for both of them. You guys cannot live with each other without putting hands on each other. You guys need to end it, and they would refuse.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad, and those are the kind of people that can't take responsibility.
Right.
Because it's pretty bad when someone else has to come up to you and be like, "Listen,
Right.
this isn't working
Not
out."
working. We've been here 6 times this month.
Yeah, that's when you know it's too bad. I actually had a girl. It was freaky for me. It was right when I first bought my gym.
Mm-hmm.
I was working late nights. I mean, I was staying up just grinding because I'm a grinder.
Right.
I like staying up late, 2, 3 a.m., but knocking the whole job out one night.
Right.
That's satisfaction to me. And I was doing that at one point, and there was a car that was sitting out in my parking lot. It wasn't sitting because I was 24 hours at this time. They didn't even park up on the building, look like a customer. They parked out at the end of my parking lot where there was basically no lights at the time. And the car was an old beat up car, full of clothes and trash and stuff like that. And it had sat there for a while. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And I drive down and I see the car there, and I was going to just call it in and have it just towed off.
Right.
And then I had pulled up. It was nighttime. And I had pulled up, and my headlights were pointing on the car, and I could see someone rolling around in there. someone sleeping in the back seat. I don't know if I could see them rolling around, but maybe I could see like a silhouette of their body, I think is what it was. And that's when I got freaked out, because now at this point I'm like, okay, they're sleeping in their car in my parking lot. This is creepy. Are they
Right. What's the intentions?
Yeah, I just go straight to drugs again.
Right.
Like in my mind, this person's on drugs. You got to be on drugs, be sleeping in your car in my parking lot full of clothes and stuff like that. Right. So once again, I call the cops and I'm like, hey, someone needs to come check this out. Like, this is not okay. And come to find out, it was a domestic abuse thing.
Right.
And she had just taken herself out of the situation, chose my parking lot for some reason to sleep in. But I told the cop, because the cop's like, well, do you want me to do anything about it? I'm like, can you just ask her to go somewhere else? We have a commuter parking lot. We have a police station. We have a motel next door.
Right.
Lots of other Walmart parking lot. But I don't need boyfriend showing up, causing problems at my gym. Yeah, because that's the last thing I need is something bad happening. Someone, something unforeseen happening in the middle of the night at my 24-hour gym, and then all of a sudden now my gym's the unsafe place for you to let your wife go or you let your daughter go work out at 10 o'clock at night, because that's a big thing for me. Yeah, I had the first 24-hour community gym in our area, and I don't want it to get ruined. Right. I'm not letting anybody ruin that, because for me even, I've had times where, I'm stressed out or have something going on where I need to go clear my head.
Right, just go to the gym.
Go to the gym. Yep. And I think about people, I think how big it impacts people that are working second and third shift. Yeah. They're getting off at midnight, 3 a.m., and they're stressed out. They work 10, 12-hour days, 8 hours at least, but they're working in a factory a lot of times. Right. They're stressed out, and they need something to do after work.
Right, it's a release,
It's a release. And I get a lot of people in the middle of the night. Yeah. And I know how important that is. I know how important it is for me. If I don't go to the gym, if I start missing 2-3 days, I have like this extra energy that builds up. And I missed 1 day last week, and then I had to miss all day that next day, like all the way up until like 3 o'clock. And I remember by 3 o'clock, I was like, everyone needs to get out of my way. I need to go work out. And I just needed that time to release that energy and go through my thoughts in my head and stuff, because I get this energy built up. And I'm not like being mean to anyone, but I'm on ease. Right. I feel like I'm more short with, I'm not going to blow up on someone or be mean to someone, but.
Snippy.
Yeah, I'm like snippy, or I want to be snippy. And I know I'm like, I
get like that when I'm hungry. Yeah.
Me too.
But as an owner, you can't do that, because then they'll be like, oh, this owner,
Yeah, exactly.
And it goes for us.
Yeah.
Same thing. Everybody has bad days, and it's important for a lot of us officers to know that even when we're having a bad day, we can't take it out on the citizens that need our help. And that does happen on occasion. I'll be the first one to say I know I've done that a couple of times, and hopefully, if you have any listeners that I've done that to, here's my official apology. But we're humans too, so it just. You never know what we're dealing with in our personal lives, just like the next person. So
yeah, there's a difference between. I'm not saying it's okay, but it happens to everyone. Yeah, right. It happens to the best of us. But there's some of them there's some people that are just moody every day. Yep. And that is not okay. Yeah. That is so draining for everyone to be around. Whenever you just wake up and you're just pissy every single day, taking it out on everybody else. I've known a couple of people that it doesn't matter. The only time they were happy is. And they could have a perfect life. Right. Wife, kids, money, all this stuff. They're still pissy all the time. It's like, what's your problem, man? Right. Like, why you got to be like that all the time? You're not a joy for anyone to be around. Yeah. And yeah, it's just crazy. And they got to just figure it out. Whether it's go to the gym, go to therapy, talk, walk.
Do something.
Yeah.
Find something to have that release so you can just relax.
Yeah. Like I said, every now and then, we all have it. But you can't be like that every day. No. That's just draining. It's unhealthy, and it's draining for everyone to be around. Right. Something I did want to talk about, we were talking about when you were talking about the hiring process and how you guys, it kind of like to have maybe someone that works for a local municipality, so you get to know them a little bit. They're guys in the law enforcement that you guys kind of already know a little bit. How did like that? You guys remember that cop in Gerald, the fake cop? How did that happen? Because that kind of just came and gone, went under the radar, and it was just kind of like.
Well,
how did he get in and just pass through the system? And is he in jail now?
I have no clue.
Nobody followed up on him. It's not that important to follow up.
I really don't know, so I'm not going to comment how that all went down. Because
Sure.
I'm not going to say something that's not
Okay.
fact
We
or
hear
false
stuff
or,
like the next guy, but I don't want to say something that's wrong or anything like that.
Sure.
through cops, and it don't matter what agency is. You get one bad apple, and it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
rumorville, and I don't know.
It's not worth talking on if you don't know on. Sure.
Yeah, I'd hate
If I
to-
know a fact about it, I'll discuss it, but I don't know.
Well, anyone that's listening to the podcast right now and they're wondering what I'm talking about, there was in Gerald, Missouri, years ago. I don't even know how long ago, but somehow a cop came in, was able to patrol for a while. Actually, I think he actually busted a lot of like
Drug houses.
drug houses and stuff. But come to find out, it was all.
Bill Jacobs was his name.
Oh, really? Bill Jacobs.
Bill Jacobs.
Is that his real name or is it like
This
just
is his real name.
So he?
Google it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Google it. And I know there's
It's
a
all over
60
CNN and
Yeah, I know
all
there's
these
a
other
60
news
minutes on
sources,
it.
and so
Yeah, that's what I was just getting at. Was
Yeah.
do some Googling on it if you guys want to see, because that's something that you never hear of.
No.
Like you never hear about.
No,
'Cause what a weird thing, in my opinion, to fake.
Right. Yeah.
Why could he not just go and actually go to the police academy? Is it certified or is it licensed or what is it
Licensed.
considered? It's a license. What's the license considered?
So
It's called POS.
Peace Officer Standard Training, I think, is what it stands for in Missouri.
Oh, okay.
And so that's what they
Post
issue
license.
Post license. So they issue. That's essentially your license to say that you're a certified peace officer in the state of Missouri.
They give you a post number, and that sticks with you your whole career.
Yeah, basically, it's like a serial number for, you being a police officer.
Yeah.
Like that's unique to you as a
Yeah.
police officer. So that stays with you. Like anytime you do training, you have to provide that post number for that specific training that you attend so that it registers to your license. Because we have to have continuing education every year. So,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah.
I mean, I guess that makes sense.
So we don't just go through the academy and be like, okay, you're done. Now
Yeah, I'm
just
good
do
for
what
the
you
rest of
want.
my life.
No.
24 hours.
Yeah, 24 hours a year with specific criteria that you have to cover, like racial profiling and de-escalation and stuff like that. So, we're doing that on a yearly basis. So
I'm sure with the way the world changing all the time,
and
it is a lot.
Something can happen next week, and next thing you know, you guys need this mandatory training.
right, and it happens.
Just like the knee, St. Louis when they also put not St. Louis,
Minnesota.
Minnesota when they
George
put the
Floyd.
knee down on the neck, chokeholds. That all went away, which a lot of us don't do it anyway. But they think that it happened to this guy. Every cop chokes the crap out of everybody.
Right.
So we had to make a new policy. Chokehold's not a thing, and then, how to get to that? We need de-escalation training, so that's mandatory now. So next month something major can happen, and they'll look into that and be like, well, one cop needs this training. Now we all need the training. It's the bad apples in the police world.
Yeah, right.
One bad apple makes everybody look bad.
Oh yeah,
And that's
but
that's
they don't.
especially when the apples were as bad as
Right.
what that one was.
It's you go up in St. Louis and you go into, we'll bring up Ferguson, all African American community, with majority of them are white cops that patrol it.
Yeah.
It's, of course everybody's going to say it's racist when something goes south because
Yeah. Well, it's easy to blame, right?
it could be just, if we're majority white people in Gas Canadian, this around central Missouri, you're bringing African American police out here now. It's the same, could be the same way. you
Yeah.
know. It's just,
That is tough situation
it's, and then
Very tough
the
situation.
racial profiles like that, we do.
because there is still racism in the world. I really don't know any racist people. Like I don't know anyone that I like behind, like when they walked away. Because I'm not racist. I don't have a racist bone in my body. I didn't.
Exactly.
I just grew up totally different, and it wasn't part of my life. It wasn't how my parents raised me.
Right.
I know it exists, and I know it's out there. So yeah, it's a very tough situation because
And I'll tell a good story. When I worked for Herman, we get a lot of Kansas City folks and St. Louis folks all come on the train. So we get a call. It was African American black folks that was causing disturbance. 2 white cops, talk to them, and they're, you're doing this because we're racist. I'm like, well, you guys are acting like a fool. How's that making us racist?
Yeah.
And they're doing all that, and I said, "There's only
Blame
one.
game, right?
And I went, and I even told the chief at this time, I said, "There's only one racist person in this community." You know, who's that? And I said, "My chief." Well, how's that? I said, "Because he is black, and he has all white officers." I said, "If you think I am racist, you think I will work for a black chief?"
Right.
Right.
And they looked at me, and their attitude changed like that.
Yeah.
Oh, we saw an officer, and it's like,
Same thing happened to me in Herman.
everybody throws a race card out there so fast these days, and like we do racial profiling. Every traffic stop, we have to
Yep.
do a racial profiling.
Yeah, it's a racial profiling sheet that just documents the date and time of the stop. You know, what was the race of the individual, what was their age, what was the zip code area where they reside in, what was their violation, did they get searched, how long was the duration of the search, stuff like that. And that's kind of unique to Missouri. That as far as I understand, there's some other states that don't even do that, but Missouri, it is a requirement for us for every encounter we have like that. You have to do a racial profiling.
I like that.
To document that information. So, and that gets sent to the
It's
state.
good, but if we stop one African American on a traffic stop down Highway 50, we don't do that the whole year. We are 100%.
It's going to show that, let's say you stop that one African American on Highway 50 for the entire year and you issue him a ticket for whatever he did.
We just got 100%.
And you got every other traffic stop you do is all white people.
Sure.
And some you issue tickets to, some you don't.
100% of the.
If you look on paper, it's going to look like,
We're
well, the
racist.
only black guy that came through Gascony County, you wrote him a ticket, you're racist.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's a catch-22 to that. I mean, it's good to have those stats for documentation purposes, but
Yeah.
you got to look at the big picture.
It's
Yeah,
not,
right.
it's not accurate.
Right.
Right.
What is the African American population for your area?
I was actually thinking more for like as a statistic, as far as like if you, let's say you pull over 10 African Americans out of 100, and out of those 10, the duration of the stop, there was maybe triple the time,
Right.
And it just looked like you were more of a hassler,
Right.
to him, and that because then I could be like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe this guy is racist, maybe because okay, not only is he getting a ticket every time, but so is the stop. The stop is like.
I mean, it's
Or like
great
the
if
documents of it,
you
or
have a community about 50-50, 50-50 black, 50-50
Yeah.
white, 50-50 Hispanic.
yeah,
And then you can pinpoint, hey, this white officer, black officer, Hispanic officer, or whatever race it is, it's picking on one because then you can articulate.
yeah,
But out here, there's no way you can articulate.
Yeah.
right, yeah, it's tough.
And there's North St. Louis, there's no way you can articulate that.
Yeah, because the majority of the population, in my opinion, or from my knowledge, would be African American in North County. And so let's say you have, half the department's white officers and doing their job naturally with whatever calls come in. What's the race of the person they're going to be dealing with? Probably 95% of the time, it's going to be African American.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So regardless of whether it was a good outcome or a bad outcome, that plays into those statistics. So
And I would
and
say
it's
99% of the cops out there don't care if you're
Yeah.
white, black, Hispanic.
We've all had
blue.
people. Yeah, we've all had people tell us, "Well, you're racist." I'm
I
like,
don't care.
I don't care if you're a dog. I don't care if you identify as whatever, or if
She,
I don't care if
they
you're
don't.
purple or white or black. I don't care.
Yeah.
I have a job to do. I'm going to do it based on what information I have and what's in front of me.
Yeah. And I would actually say that is the average. And then, like you said, the really bad apples
Right.
just screw it up for everybody. And that's all it takes, because they're not looking for a reason to make you guys look good.
No.
They're out there looking for every excuse to make you guys look bad.
Yeah,
They're out there with bad
When's the next
intentions.
time you see on
Yeah.
social media that a cop saved somebody's life?
Yeah.
Or on Channel 2 News or anything like that?
Right.
Never.
Yeah.
But
They're
when a
not.
cop-
Always
when a-
negativity.
When a law does something bad, it all over social media, all over this.
Yeah.
And that's, with everything with law enforcement, I would place a lot of blame on the large media outlets, because they're trying to get people's attentions. Their job is to sell a story, right? And they're going to get whatever information they can and put it out there. And what draws attention?
Negativity.
Right? So
That's exactly what I was just saying.
even though if they tried and they put the good stuff out there, that draws good attention too. People don't want to, at least for me, I don't want to turn on the TV and watch the news to see everything negative. Like, who wants to look on, watch the news and be like, oh, there was 13 shootings in St. Louis tonight, like, and 2 kids were shot. Like, who wants to see that every day?
I don't.
Nobody does.
That's
right?
why I quit watching the news.
You wanna
'cause
be-
It's like it's
Right.
depressing.
It's depressing.
Yeah, it's almost scary to watch.
So
I mean, if you look in the history of it, even right now, of how many lives law enforcement, just first responders in general, saves on a daily basis.
Couldn't even be calculated.
it's far more.
How many agencies, if you do a statistic, how many agencies do you use Narcan in a day? Every time you use a Narcan, you just save somebody's life.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that is, I forgot what one of the sheriffs was. We had a sheriff conference. We do 2 a year. Said that they're averaging 3 to 4 Narcan a day.
I believe it.
So where's that at in the news that says, hey, these first responders, law enforcement, are saving
Hey,
these people's
Ariel,
lives?
can you look that up? How many Narcans get used in a year? Narcan? How many of them get used in a year on average?
They don't
That'd be an interesting number.
Right.
they don't bring that up.
NARCAN.
That's just not for us. That's
And Narcan is.
first responders and mercy.
Some people, I guess, might not know what Narcan is.
So Narcan is it comes like obviously it comes in a little box, but when you pull it out, it almost looks like a nasal medication. Like you just stick it up your nose and squeeze it. Like if you're yeah. Like,
I always thought it was like a shot.
No, so I think it can come in that form, but for us, it comes in like almost like an allergy nasal medication would, and you get it out of the box. Obviously, when you can determine like, hey, if they got pinpoint pupils or you think it's a drug overdose, put it up their nose, a couple little.
That's basically what it's for, right? Drug
Right,
overdoses.
yeah.
People will literally OD.
Yeah, so
dead.
specifically for like
Fentanyl.
if your pupils will be pinpoint. I mean, like the tip of a pen or a pencil, right? Which is not normal.
Really?
So your pupil is supposed to be about half the size of the rest of your eye, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you open their eyes and you see that it's pinpoint, you're like, this is opioid, right? So you give them Narcan, and most of the time they will almost immediately respond. And it's like basically like a block for that drug. It stops the effects of that drug in your system almost immediately.
So
for most
weird.
people.
So weird how. What is it? Is Narcan?
I don't know
what
the
it
science.
is?
There's a scientific name. I'm sure we can look that up, but
How many?
narcolepsine or something like that, or naloxone, yeah.
Is it not one to drag over?
93.5% of people survived their overdose
So that's,
How many?
when given Narcan.
I couldn't find anything.
It won't tell you how many actually.
Because there's no
There's no
stats.
stats on it.
Oh, they don't actually.
We don't track that.
We don't
No.
track it.
So there's a lot, like the
okay.
health department. There's a lot of entities out there that will give us Narcan for free, but
You can buy that over the counter now.
you can buy it over the
If you're-
counter. Yeah.
If you're a drug user and you know that, hey, you can put that in your pocket, and if you overdose, your friend can give you it and bring it back without getting law enforcement.
Really?
And I've talked to I've arrested dealers that would deal opioids, like fentanyl and heroin.
Yeah.
And they said, well, I wasn't killing anybody. I was just dealing with the drugs, and I made sure that I had Narcan. And I stayed with them when they used, so that I knew that they wouldn't die. And if they were about to, I would give them Narcan.
That's nuts.
And so there was dealers out there that would actually, and very few of the dealers would actually stay with you while you used and give you Narcan when needed to make sure you had somebody there with you.
Yeah.
But aside from that, most dealers would be like, here's your product, give me my money, and see ya.
Yeah. Well, they want a returning customer.
Right,
They gotta
exactly.
Stay alive. As
Right.
crazy as it sounds.
No, that's their source, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's where they're bringing their money in.
Yeah.
So if you're out flopping dead, what good is that doing them?
So even, to have it in your possession against the law, but if we go to an overdose and they have possession, we can't even charge them.
Right.
Because it becomes medical.
Because that's a big.
What is there's a name for that law? The Good Samaritan. It's like if somebody calls in an overdose, we can't, if we show up and that person's in possession of narcotics, at that point, we can't charge them legally. It's like a safe clause for them so that it's basically to incentivize people reporting overdoses to save lives.
Because if they thought it cost them, they wouldn't want it.
Well, the fear is that, okay, this person's overdosing. If we call law enforcement, we still got drugs here, we're going to get in trouble. We're going to go to jail.
They won't call us.
And they won't call us. And they'll just leave that person to die.
Oh, so you guys can't even charge them at the time?
No. So, like, if it gets called in as a drug overdose and we show up, we're there simply to assist EMS with a medical call or to, give Narcan ourselves to potentially save their life.
We'll seize it, but we can't charge it.
Yeah, we can seize it and destroy it, but we can't charge them.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I get it though. I get why it's a thing.
Like, we want people to feel comfortable calling us. Like,
Yeah.
But think about it. If you know, like, if you're an addict and like, if I call, I'm probably going to go to jail. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to go to jail.
No.
Right?
Yeah, they'd literally rather die.
And there's people that have
Sometimes.
died that way. Like, their friend's laying there and they need medical help or, first responders assistance. But they have fear that they're going to go to jail. So they won't call. And that person ends up losing their life.
But again, like you said earlier in the cast, you're not manning up to what you're doing.
Right.
People get mad at us because we took the high away.
Yeah.
And then what do? They go right back to buy more and they do it again.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a crazy drug.
It is.
One of the craziest drugs out there.
Yep.
It's crazy that it even exists. And I've lost friends to it,
We have, yeah.
and it's extremely sad.
Yep.
I don't know why it exists at all. I understand, in a sense, how people get to the point of it. I understand what gets people to it. I just don't understand. I had good parents. I guess that's what I can chalk it up to.
Yeah.
They taught me right from wrong. I mean, schools did too.
When I talk to a lot of people that's on fentanyl or heroin or something like that, I ask them, how do you get involved in this? How did you do this? And I would say 50%, maybe a little higher, will say high school. I was a high school athlete.
Yeah.
And I said, well, how did that get you involved? He goes, because we wanted to play and we're injured, so they gave us pain medicine. Mm-hmm. Well, pain medicine before the football game, you don't feel nothing, so you play better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
You
basketball,
just
your
smack
knees.
into them and you don't even
Smack.
care.
So next you know, it's just like everything else. You drink. When we were young, it took us 2-3 beers to, we're intoxicated. We felt good.
Yeah.
But more you drink, now you're up to a case or more before you get the effect.
Yeah.
And it's just like narcotics. Your first high is going to be quick, but more you take it, your
Build
body
that tolerance.
Your body wants more and more and more and more and more and more, and
Yeah.
it just costs so much more because you need it more to even get the high that you.
Starts out on Vicodin, Percocets.
Right.
And the doctors in the hospital the same way. Here it is.
I mean, we had
Don't take it, but
we had in high school.
need
Like, I know there's plenty of football players that I played with in high school that were using pills and stuff during,
Yeah.
in the locker room.
They were also doing it. They were also snorting it because they thought it was cool.
Right. Exactly.
And they couldn't say no. And so, like the one, I seen like the one guy would get it. And then he's like, hey, you want to try this?
Right.
You don't feel nothing after it.
Right.
And they were all doing it. And I steered far away from it.
Peer pressure. I mean, that's,
But the other ones, there's some people that can't say no because if you say no, you're not cool anymore.
right. Yeah. It's that
And-
peer pressure. And then for other people, it can be a coping mechanism. If they're dealing with stuff in their life or.
I feel like that's where it started out where, I'll just try it one time.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, something bad happens in your life. And now it becomes a coping mechanism.
Right. Yep.
Because, I remember when I did that, and I was just doing that for fun because we were just having a good time. And then all of a sudden now it's like, I'm going through some hard times in my life. So I know that takes all the pain away.
Right. And I'm going to use a little bit more because, of what I'm going through.
Yeah, the pain's a little rough, so I'll just
little
throttle it up a little more.
And
Yep.
you
And
start
that's
to
a
build
lot
that
of
tolerance.
reoccurrence, when people get clean, hey, I've been clean, and then next a loved one dies. Just like you said, what's the fastest way to get rid of this pain?
Yeah.
Going back on the drugs.
Yep.
Then they get hair corner for a while, and then truck drivers. People don't believe how many truck drivers out there that's impaired because they stay awake. They
Yeah.
can drive for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. Now you have that big.
Is that like Adderall, though? Would that be more of like an upper?
Yeah, it's an upper, a stimulant,
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing something
Meth.
just to keep them.
methamphetamine?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big one.
That's a big one for truck drivers. So
And here's the thing, too, is you got people that might start out with methamphetamine, and that's their drug of choice, but now you have someone offering fentanyl to them. Well, now they're using both.
Yeah.
And they figure out they can get the stimulant from methamphetamine and the downer from the fentanyl.
The craziest thing I ever
They get
heard.
up and down,
Yeah, that's what I heard.
All in one, they just lace it.
Yeah, they'll lace it together, and now
Doing
Marijuana.
it at the
you'll
same
get your
time.
you'll get your extreme high.
Marijuana's the
yeah,
same way.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll lace stuff with marijuana.
They'll lace
You'll
it
get your
with
extreme high from the stimulant of methamphetamine. And then after you get your high, you'll get your extreme low from the fentanyl, where you're almost like nodding off. If you see somebody sitting there and they're just nodding off, that's typically an opioid.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I always heard that there'd be people that would do meth all week and then do heroin at the end of the week to come off of it.
Yeah, some do.
That was the craziest thing I ever heard. I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Like, that's two extremes. Two very far extremes.
And you know, that's the thing. It's
I like caffeine.
Right.
I like to get going for the day, but that's on another level.
And that's the thing. It's like they're just constant, especially methamphetamine. It's like busy work. They're not accomplishing anything with what they're doing, but they constantly got to be doing something. Mm-hmm. Like they may organize something for hours on end, but they didn't accomplish anything. It's the same as what it was when they started. So it's just like busy work, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to see people like that, especially people like, you know, working in this community where I grew up, and obviously where he grew up. We are dealing with people that we know most of the time. You know, we've went to school with them, or we know their family, and to see them go through that and battle that addiction and see the type of person that it makes them become versus the type of person you once knew, it's very difficult.
Yes, it is.
Or if you stay in it for a long time, you've seen the parents get clean, and now you're dealing.
Then you deal with their kids. You know,
Whoa.
It's a cycle. So, and it's just that's the big thing is breaking that cycle. And even for me, you know, both of my parents were drug addicts when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And, you know, my dad was in prison a couple of times whenever I was a kid. And the cops were constantly at the house, or they were constantly dealing with my alcoholic uncles, you know. So I got to see a lot of crazy stuff as a child. And I think that kind of sparked my interest in law enforcement, you know, like.
Is that what pushed you away from it, you think?
Yeah. That's what drove me to law enforcement was, even though my family was all on the negative side of law enforcement on both sides, mom and dad's side, it still sparked interest in me. I'm like, because what they're doing is the right thing. And that's how I viewed it as a child. I don't know. It's like a switch in my head that I don't want to do what my parents are doing because I see the result.
Yeah.
They're going to jail, right? Yeah. So
seems like a miserable.
It's a miserable way to learn and experience, but.
Well, I was saying a miserable way to live life.
It is, right. You know, because
like
you're constantly like, there was times when, you know, when my dad was using, like, he used to be looking over his shoulder, he'd pass a cop on the road, and it's just be like a total freak out. Like, oh my God, I gotta turn here. I gotta go there. I don't want them to bother me. I don't want to go to jail because I got warrants or I don't have a valid license or whatever the case is. It just snowballs. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, you know, my dad has since gotten clean and he's doing a lot better with his life, and my mother too. But, you know, to witness a lot of those things, it just, for me personally, it was just like a switch in my head. I'm like, I'm going to look at life, any decisions in my life, and think about what the decision my parents would have made. And I'm going to do the complete opposite. And surely I'll be fine.
I'll turn out
fine, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I kind of steered myself towards. And I think it's worked out okay so far, you know.
You're doing pretty good.
So,
yeah,
you know, it just worked for me. But, you know, a lot of people will make excuses to say, well, I had a bad upbringing, or, you know, I had this or that. Don't make excuses.
No,
you know,
all excuses.
Some people have it harder than others. Like, you know, you can look at a kid that was a trust fund.
That goes back to blaming someone else.
Right.
Not taking responsibility
you got to take responsibility for what's going on and take accountability. You may have a kid, like I know there's people like rich kids that live in like Ladue or Frontenac up in the city, and they have everything they ever need as far as financially. Mm-hmm. You know, they don't have to worry about anything. But you see a lot of those kids get addicted to drugs.
Yep.
There's still other issues. Like, just because it looks like they're taken care of, or they have everything they need.
I almost think that's because they have no issues.
Right.
They're getting bored.
They're creating issues because, you know, but who knows? You know, a lot of times those parents may have busy lives, or, you know, they have money because they've, you know,
they got problems too.
They got problems too, right? Yeah. So now maybe they're not getting the attention they needed. And so this is their way of, you know, getting attention. I don't know, you know, so it's not, drug addiction is not limited to just poor people.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a perfect life.
No.
It's how you handle it, how you deal with it.
You got to get up every day trying to make your life better.
We all make mistakes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what I tell people, you know, just don't make...
You got to learn from
it. Don't make excuses for how you were brought up or what cards you were dealt in life. Mm-hmm. You are in total control of how you want your life to be.
Yeah.
You may have bumps in the road more so than some others. You may have a harder road to get to where you want to be. Mm-hmm. You have to take that accountability and have to have the mindset that I'm going to do what I want in life.
Mm-hmm.
and make it positive.
Yeah, if you're in a position in your life where life ain't going right, you literally just need to sit down one day and think about everything that is causing bumps in the road.
Yep.
And you need to write that down.
Yep.
And you need to figure out, okay, I'm 25 pounds overweight. I need to go to the gym. And I need to write this down and have it in my face.
Way to call me out. I appreciate it.
Well, my bad. My bad. What?
Trying to get more money.
We're not buying a gym membership,
trying to-
okay? Like, calm down.
Yeah. That was just an easy one for me.
I'm leaving.
That was just an easy one. But I think that
No, yeah,
you
I
just
get
got to
it.
sit down and be like, what's my issues? How do I handle them? And I got to get to work on them.
Right, exactly.
And you got to be willing to admit when whatever in your life's going wrong.
Right.
Yeah, that was just an easy one for me to.
You have to realize
example out of.
you are in total control.
Yeah.
You are in control of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't, it's easy for people to say, well, my parents did this, or, this happened to me.
Yeah.
Stop sitting on
Even with the weight thing, it's
Right.
the people coming to me. I was talking to a gentleman yesterday. He was trying to help me. He was asking me about his diet and how he could change it to get in better shape. And I was like, well, what do you eat? Let's break it down.
McDonald's.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
He told me about how one of his
Taco Bell.
workouts was chicken nuggets. And I'm like, well,
Those are terrible for you.
those are, you got to cut them out. I was telling him, like, you got to get leaner meats.
But chicken's good.
Yeah, but that's not chicken.
That's something. I call it chicken.
You're right. Chicken is good, but that is not chicken.
Yeah.
That is not chicken.
Like you said on that, look yourself. That goes for life in general, especially if you get in a boss, supervisor position. When I took office, we did good, and we went through a bumpy trail that we couldn't keep somebody. 2 weeks they quit, and I was like, what am I doing wrong? What are we doing? So it's, you just have to look at yourself and like, am I doing something wrong that people just,
Yeah.
what do I need to change?
Yeah. Or maybe not even doing something wrong, but what am I not doing right?
Right.
Like, you're not doing nothing wrong, but you're not doing anything to also incentivize these people to stay
and
Right.
or want to be there.
we could call for a department meeting, and I just let the guys, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? What do you guys want to change?
That's big. I do that I only have one employee, but I'll go into her and I do the same thing. Say,
I'm not-
what do I need to do to make you happy? Like, what,
Right.
like, are work conditions good? Is pay fair? Am I giving you too much of a workload? Like, I sit down, I make sure that they're happy.
Well, that's
Make sure
a
they
big
get
thing
time
is
off.
you
I'm
have
not
to
a-
take care of your people.
Yeah.
That's the only, as a business owner, that's the only way you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
If you don't have the people with, their boots on the ground that's doing the grunt work for you so that you don't have to, if they're not happy and they're not there to help operate your business, you're doing it yourself, and you're not going to be able to take on that responsibility.
Yeah, I know, I
yourself,
can't.
Right? So
I got some guys that help me fix, because I have some rental properties, or even my house here. They come out and help me here. And I'm like, you guys are working with me.
Right.
You guys don't work for me. I hope you guys know that. Like, I appreciate you guys every time you guys show up.
Yeah.
And I try to make sure, literally, every time they show up. And I probably say it to the point where they get annoyed. But I'm like, thank you guys so much for coming out today. They'll leave. I'm like, you guys did a great job. Like, this turned out great. I love it. Like, I appreciate you.
some
keep
people
coming
need
out.
that. Some people have the personality where they need that affirmation from somebody that thanks. And there's other people that don't. You
Yeah.
just got to know kind of who you're.
And it's hard to know.
Right. You just.
So I'd rather just.
It's
go
easier
on
just to put it out there.
Yeah,
so.
even if they don't want it, at least they know they're welcomed.
I think one thing that helps us at the sheriff's office is Scott is a working sheriff. Like, you get some departments where their sheriff is strictly administrative. You see him in passing, hey, sheriff, how's your day? And they're doing paperwork, phone calls, stuff like that. This guy will go out and be the first one on a call. He'll beat you to a call. I'm like, why are you going to a call, sheriff? You're the sheriff. This is our work. Let us take care of it. But he can't. He's hands-on. So I know that helps with the morale of our department is having a sheriff that's going to stand right beside you and do the work with you.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like because it's not a boss, it's a leader at that point.
Exactly.
And I think that really matters because I've worked for some bosses and they suck.
Right.
They suck. They just,
Not you, sheriff.
I get bored.
well, yeah.
Doing all the paperwork and all that stuff. It's,
Don't be modest though.
it's,
You could,
I got to go and do something. And
yeah. I think,
even though they don't like me doing that because, we get a whole new system and I'm not all up to date on that system.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I do something, then I have to be like, hey, get in my office, help me with the system.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's good though. They can come in, they're comfortable enough with you
Yeah.
that you guys can work together like that.
Yeah.
Could we, because we're probably getting into this, quite a bit. And I don't know what you guys got planned today, so I don't want to hold you guys up all day.
He's my boss, so
So whatever he says.
whatever he says goes.
I would like to talk about the passing of Mason. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah,
guys
that's
comfortable with it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It was kind of hard for me to reach. I don't want to use the death of someone because I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel.
Right.
And I want people to watch it, and I am trying to get paid off of it. But that's not why I want to do this. That's not why I wanted, not the sole reason why I want to have you guys on. But I was worrisome about having you guys on and talking about it. One, because I didn't know if it was too soon for you guys.
Right.
Because I know how close you guys all get.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know how soon was too soon. And I also didn't want people to think like, oh, Ryan's just doing this for like a publicity thing.
Right.
That's not it at all.
For your gain.
Yeah, for my gain. That's not it at all. I personally think that Mason was very close to the community. Very, very close to the community.
Yep.
I would say one of the biggest officers in the area, like impactful officers in the area, in my opinion.
Yes.
Scotty, your name was one that I've known my entire life, basically. I didn't know you, but I've known your name. But Mason was one too for me. He made a huge impact, and it's very obvious that he was making a huge impact, not just on my life, but the entire community's life. And so I think there's a lot of stuff that gets shared on social media. There's stuff on the news. There's a lot of stuff going on. And I thought maybe you guys, I would love to hear it from you guys' perspective rather than just people sharing stuff on Facebook and online and wherever else you get your source from. I thought you guys might be a really good source and actually hear it come from you guys. And if there's anything you guys don't want to talk about, we certainly don't have to talk about it. We can stop talking about it at any time. But I would love to hear, because I know what I've heard from the situation.
Right.
But maybe you guys could explain the situation. Anyone that's listening that doesn't know about the situation, because it's crazy to think that anyone that might be listening to my podcast might not know what happened with Mason.
Right.
But so anyone that's listening might not know. Mason Griffith, right? That was his last, how you pronounce his last name?
Yep.
He was on patrol one night. And I'm going to let you guys kind of explain if that's okay with you guys.
We won't go into a whole bunch of detail
That's fine.
of the incident because it had not went through the court process yet, and they are still
Okay.
tracking down some leads. So, I mean,
Okay.
I could break it down where, that's kind of still what you heard, little stuff, but
Okay.
going into the whole,
Can't go too deep.
We
deep
can't do
into
a deep dive into it, but because it's still kind of in the court process. But
so basically, as a citizen went into Casey's realizing, hey, subject in there that had warrants. So they made contact with one of the officers. They decided to make an attempt to do a warrant arrest. He denied his name. An altercation took place where, unfortunately, he shot both officers. Mason passed away from his injuries. Adam, as right now, is in Colorado.
Just yesterday got moved out to Colorado.
treatment.
yeah, we got to partake in that yesterday, going up to the hospital and doing an escort for him from the hospital to the airport, which was a really amazing thing to see if nobody saw that. St. Louis County was there, and they'd taken like 5 or 6 patrol vehicles and shut down 6440, and it was nothing but an escort to
awesome.
to the airport. And it was just every
Amazing how it all worked.
It was amazing. Every overpass we went to, there was a fire truck or some citizens lined up with flags, just standing there.
Chilling.
Yeah, it was it gives you goosebumps,
Yeah.
Just going through that. It was really incredible.
Why'd they take him out to Colorado?
So,
Best hospital in the nation for brain trauma.
yeah.
So there was few Missouri officers that got injured. Line of duty also went out there.
I
So
don't know if you
That's
remember
same night?
Officer Flame.
no, same. Just
In years past.
In
So,
years past.
like Officer Flamian, his family has ties to this area. He was a Baldwin officer, got shot on a traffic stop. I think he got shot in the head as well.
I don't know where he got shot.
But he ended up recovering and ended up going to the same facility, the same hospital in Colorado, and had really good luck with the rehabilitation there and the services that they provided for those traumatic injuries.
Cool.
So,
Okay, I figured it was something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, man, that's such a big.
And the way that I was told yesterday, they normally do like first responders.
Yeah, they specialize
That's
in
what they
like first
specialize
responders.
in, like
And it's a helicopter.
plane.
It's a plane.
Yeah, it
Okay,
was
I was
like
gonna say a helicopter seems
Yeah, no,
not the
it
best
was-
route to go.
And be honest with you, when I seen the plane, I was like, this thing's small.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I mean,
How
it's a
you gonna-
small.
How you going to get a gurney in that in the plane?
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
Yeah, it was tight.
I'm a big guy, and
Interesting.
I don't know if I can fit in it. I mean,
Really, it is that
I
small?
mean,
was pretty
it's when
small.
you had to duck to get into the
the wing, you
doorway.
couldn't walk up
Yeah.
with the wings.
No,
Whoa.
we're talking like a plane that would hold a pilot or two, and then maybe 6 people, 7 people.
And they have it set up where you can.
But they had it set up like specifically for those types of flights. You know,
Gotcha.
But I was expecting a lot bigger plane when
I was too, but
Yeah, I'm picturing in my head like a private jet, but no.
but it was small.
I figured it'd be a plane where the back end comes down.
Yep.
They roll them right
Roll
up.
'em.
in
That's kind of what I got
there,
pictured in my
and they
head.
kinda
Nope.
Up,
Like that.
no,
They
they
just
went
had-
right through the side door, and
Yeah, the side door, and they just had like a little ramp that they'd set up, and they just kind of slid his.
So-
stretch
So is
roll.
Adam awake?
he was. His eyes was open when he came out, but he's not. He's responding to some stuff, but just not.
I think he's responded with like a thumbs up, thumbs down, which is all good stuff considering, you know,
Squeeze a hand.
squeezing hands, stuff like that. So,
Very good.
right. I
For the
mean,
amount of time.
yeah, it's a very short period of time. And if you think about it, having a traumatic brain injury and stuff like that, I mean, it's,
But they move
Very
fast.
proud.
yeah, they do.
They move fast these days.
Yeah.
Like I was told a story, not change topic, but we had a young lady in the Bay Area got a leg cut off by a lawnmower. They flew her out, and the next day they had her with a new leg in the swimming pool, walking and swimming.
Whoa.
Right.
And I'm like, ain't that a little fast? And that's when I was. That's up in Kings Highway, whatever hospital that is. Anyway, Kings Highway, big hospital.
Okay.
Barnes.
Barnes. And they said, yeah,
Barnes Jewish Hospital?
Yeah.
he goes. We go quick. You're in. The brain don't have time to figure out what's going on.
Yep.
Wow.
So just like this, and I even told
It's
the
definitely
guy,
the best time to get in an accident.
Right.
and I even told the guys, I said, once Adam wakes up, they're gonna move.
Yeah.
They're gonna get him going. They're gonna do whatever he has to do, and start the process quickly. And I think the wife said, Channel 2, I think said 4 to 6 weeks,
6 to 8, I think.
and the wife was saying about 4 months recovery.
Yeah. I mean, as far as long-term recovery, it's going to be probably about a 4-month process.
Yeah.
At the hospital, then he's still gonna have.
Right. He's going to have plenty of therapy and rehabilitation stuff going on.
Sure. I'm sure there's a lot of like little stuff that's
Yeah.
going to take time to recover from.
So that was a nutshell. Get back to the Mason. That was a nutshell what happened there. We ended up getting information. Lynde got information where the suspect was. Ultimately, we surrounded the house and took him out peacefully.
But it took quite a few hours, right?
It took a lot more hours of, he just shot 2 officers, so they didn't want to put a human being inside the house.
Yeah.
So they used the technology of drones, robots, and some other tactics that
Right.
they won't discuss.
SWAT team comes in, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they wanted to.
And they ended up gassing it pretty heavily.
Yeah.
And then that made him come out.
Their goal was to get him out without having to make entry and putting other officers in, line of fire essentially,
Yep.
given the circumstances. So
Yeah.
it was hard because the weather wasn't great. I mean, it was really cold. So you have officers from all over the state showing up, right? And they're holding the perimeter in the freezing cold, and the SWAT's trying to do their thing and get the guy to come out. And it just went on for a long time. And it was very mentally and physically, it was hard on everybody. So, like, I know I probably didn't sleep for almost 3 days just because of the time that it took through everything. Now, the actual incident, getting them in custody, didn't take 3 days, but, getting through everything was just up and down.
You talking paperwork?
Well, I mean, you just don't arrest them and, hey, we're done.
Right. There's a lot more.
A lot of us don't know is, that Sunday was my daughter's birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
So we woke up early. We did all that. Before that happened, a deputy got in a fur pursuit just right down the road from us.
Yeah.
So I got called out for that. I got him in custody, went back home for a couple hours, and then this happened. So you're already up through the whole day.
Yeah.
Now you're through this. So now when you got him in custody,
We've been up
you still
for
got work to do beyond he's in custody.
like,
Wasn't in there.
I
see what you're saying.
given the time frame, I mean, I think a lot of us had probably been up for about 30 hours.
Even
By the
though-
time this event
By
starts,
the time you wake up in your normal schedule on a Sunday, and then
By the time
the
you
event
get
happened, by the time you get done and get home, it's almost midnight the
then-
following day.
You get a few hours sleep and you got to turn around and
Do it all over.
like I told the guys, I said, unfortunately what happened, but as a sheriff, the citizens still count on us. We can't just put everything on hold.
Yeah.
So we still, the next day, we still had a job to do. We still had court to do.
Yeah, you guys don't just get a call in and say, I'm having a bad day. I
Right,
need
we
to
don't
take
get to call in and say I need a day.
A day
It
off.
just don't work that way.
We just keep moving forward. And it's tough to say, tough to do, but, we still had a job to do after the fact, and we did a fantastic job all the way around, all the agencies involved, the whole nation,
Yeah,
everything,
it was.
It was a scene to be. It was a chaotic scene as a sheriff with a whole bunch of agencies doing parts, and you're in my county doing all this.
Yeah.
And then after the fact of making sure that DDCC has everything they need to make a solid case to put this guy, making sure the prosecutor's on scene, making sure she needs everything she needs, back behind the scenes of what people don't see. Of wrapping up this case, getting enough evidence. Making
What's
sure
the DDC?
It's
That's the investigative unit that the Highway Patrol has during a lot
Okay.
of most agencies in the state. If they have an officer involved shooting, they will call the Highway Patrol's drug. I don't know what the acronym
Ariel,
is.
can you look that up real quick? Just see what it is, the acronyms of it.
Something drug and crime control, something to that effect. But regardless, basically it's their group of investigators.
division.
Division of
Division of
Drug,
Drug.
Crime, and Control.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay.
But they're the investigative unit that anytime there's an officer involved shooting or anything of that nature, something that, a lot of agencies, even for homicides, for smaller agencies, they will call DDCC in, and those investigators will come in, and they have obviously more resources at the state level to be able to handle that type of call and not have to worry about carrying on with day-to-day operations. So like for us, if we have something major happen, we have 14 guys
No.
now, and if we have something major like that happen, we still have to operate. We still have to answer other calls for service for citizens that still need our help, even though this major event is going on. So sometimes it's a daunting task to be able to handle that situation and handle regular business.
And we don't have the resources or the money
So,
as a state does.
So they're just coming in, making sure everything is going properly, help you guys out, give
Right.
you assistance.
Right.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I mean, we had FBI there. We had Federal Fish and Wildlife. We had, you name it, we had them there.
And I didn't even know we had
Secret Service. It was really neat.
That is neat.
A tragic event like that, the one thing looking back, it was the amount of support. Seeing all these other agencies just drop what they're doing, guys that are off duty that are close there, they just, no questions asked, they just showed up. Where do you need me? What do you need me to do?
Yeah.
You
Yeah, because you never expect it to happen.
Right.
It's maybe you guys expect it more than, but
No,
I would never.
It's always there in our mind, but we don't expect it.
we don't expect it out here, and I'd have to look back, but to the best of my knowledge, I think this is probably the first official line of duty death for Gaston County as far as being shot in the line of duty.
Yeah.
I would think.
I was
thinking
wondering
back,
the same thing.
I'd have to look it up, and the one person that would know that information would be Mason. So,
Wow.
yeah, but I think that's probably the first one Gaston County's ever had.
Yeah. Truly lost a great one.
Yeah, and and Scott and I were probably the closest to Mason. We had worked with Mason longer than probably anybody else left that's still policing in Gaston County, and so it was tough for us. He's a sheriff. He's trying to manage the scene and manage the situation and make sure people are doing what they're supposed to. Mm-hmm. And as an investigator for the detective for the sheriff's office, I'm doing whatever tasks are coming my way, whatever I'm assigned to, but still knowing I just lost one of my best friends,
Yeah.
So, there was a time on scene where as soon as I found out, I broke down. I just couldn't help it. And, sheriff had to basically get on to me, get it together. Mm-hmm. We still have a job to do. Mm-hmm. We have a task that we have to get done. We have to get this guy in custody. And so finally I was able to gather myself, and it is kind of a laser focus after that, just get the job done, get him in custody, and then grieve later,
Yeah.
So, but it was a very difficult situation for both of us to be in, and, I broke down initially, but I know Sheriff probably broke down, it was probably days later,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and there's
just that pressure.
Grieving probably, you guys are still probably grieving.
Yeah.
Probably still will for a long time, and a lot of it probably happened behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Off shift, things like that. Yeah.
And I think the hard part is for probably both of us is not getting the daily phone calls from Mason. You know, the talking to him, just everything law enforcement on a daily basis, and you know, seeing how things could be better and what can we do to make things better. What kind of events can we get together? How can we provide better resources for our county and our citizens?
Yeah, when something like this happens, you almost, as someone that you really care about this person and their family, and it's like it almost feels like no matter what you do, you cannot give enough, right? Because you can't give back that life.
No.
And in my eyes, like, that's all I want to do.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing that can replace that. And yeah, you just want to do everything that you possibly can.
You know, I think that's a big thing, and I keep telling people is the community has an idea of what they lost, but they will truly not understand that until there's an amount of time that has passed where they physically see all that he did for our community.
Yep.
The time that he put in. That guy never stopped. You know, Scott and I would both tell him, Mason, slow down, man. You're doing too much. You know, that just wasn't him. You know, he just had the personality where he was go, 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 and what can I do to make things better?
Yeah. And he truly loved it.
He loved it. I mean, he
Breathed it.
He breathed it. You know,
He picked law enforcement over his own family.
Yeah, you know, and it sucks to say that, but I mean, he did. He was a public servant by nature, and like he enjoyed doing it. His family understood it, and they were there with him a lot of the times. You know, he had been working on stuff he was also obviously the chief of Rosebud, so he'd be working on stuff for Rosebud, and his son would be sleeping in the chairs in the office across from him because that was their way of still being able to spend time together, but him be productive with what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's tough. You know, the citizens are really going to see with a lot of they're really going to see a lot of the stuff that he organized, and we're going to be missing that. There's going to be a void there.
1 in a million.
Right. I mean,
1 in a billion.
I mean, you know, stuff like this happens, you know, across the U.S., and people say that about every officer that's ever killed in the line of duty. But when you talk about a public servant and a guy that gave everything he could to his community, this was the guy. Mason was the guy.
Unreplaceable.
You know, so
Irreplaceable.
We never replace him.
no.
Because there was some of the things that he did were just out of like the kindness and the love in his heart.
Yeah.
For law enforcement and his community. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, he
To
never
find someone like that again is.
he never knew a stranger. You know.
Yeah.
You know, and
He was good. He was sharp.
He was. He really was. You know, he had probably a little bit different approach to law enforcement than myself or Scott, but it wasn't wrong by any means. You know? Everybody's got their own opinion on how to do certain things, but regardless, at the end of the day, he knew what was right, legally what was right and what was wrong, and he knew how to approach. And he can go into a crazy situation and come out, you know, perfect. You know, he'd be fine, and the situation was handled. You know, maybe we would have handled it a little bit different, but would have had the same outcome. So, you know,
I liked seeing him involved in the community.
Yeah.
I love the fact that he was, if you follow, I don't know what the Facebook page is actually called. Would it be actually City of Rosebud?
City of Rosebud's page. So the Rosebud Police Department used to have their own personal Facebook page, but they combined it with the City of Rosebud. So,
Gotcha.
Mason was very involved in the page. He always put information out. Any information he could, he put it out.
Yeah.
Even the weather updates, you know, that people obviously would probably already get on their smartphones.
Yeah.
He put it out anyway, you know.
He was, hey, there's a tornado coming.
Right, yeah.
Make sure to take cover. Or it was just something about, you know, maybe just he would take a picture and have a picture of him working traffic on Saturdays.
Yep.
Just anything where he was involved in the community.
He wanted people to know.
Awesome. I love that because I love seeing that stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that are in the community that don't get out in the community.
They don't know.
They don't know. Yeah. That's their way of following along nowadays.
Right.
Social media.
Right.
And if you ever had a scanner or work with him, you'll know he loved to hear him talk. I'm a quiet guy. I don't like to talk. I don't like to. I don't know. I'm weird.
More reserved.
Yeah, but Mason, you can't shut him up on radio.
No.
You finally have to.
You have to take it away from him. Like, Mason, they don't need to know all that, you know.
Okay.
But he felt, you know, he liked hearing himself talking to radio.
Yeah.
But he felt like it was pertinent information that dispatch needed to know.
It was his true passion.
Yeah.
And that's why he was that way, because that's how I am doing my stuff. There's some things that people get sick and tired of seeing my crap, I guarantee it. But I'm just so passionate about it that I just have these blockers on, and I'm doing exactly what I want to do in life, and I'm going to do it whether anyone else likes it or not.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, and I
Do what
think
makes
that's
you
how
happy,
he was
you
too.
know? Yeah.
You know, he was very passionate about what he was doing, his community that he was in, and he was doing it whether anybody liked it or not. And he didn't need anybody's
No.
reassurance that he was doing the right thing or the wrong thing, because he knew it in his heart that he was doing.
He was always coming up with a new idea for new events or you know
Yeah.
how he could get engaged with the community. It was great.
Yep. I remember when it was called the Owensville Car Cruise.
Yeah.
And they got shut. They wanted to have a movie at the park. They
Yep.
wanted to get a projector with a screen, and it was just something free for the community to do.
Yep.
And the gentleman that was doing it tried multiple places in another town, in the Owensville community. It's called Owensville Car Cruise. So he tried to do it in Owensville. They wanted to charge them. Like they either didn't want them there, they wanted to charge them. I remember one place said that he had to pay so much money to do it.
Mm-hmm.
He had to get insurance coverage on it, and he would have to go back through, pick up all the trash, and like re-rake the parking lot. It was a gravel parking lot. They wanted him to re-rake the parking lot and pay for like professional cleanup service. And he's like, one, it's not going to get that dirty. But two, I will go out there and do it. And they're like, no, you got to still pay it. And he's like, this is volunteer. Everything's for free. Nobody's paying for anything. I got to
Right.
pay for the screen and
It's
do
not
all
like
this
he's making
stuff.
money on this. This is something.
Yeah,
for
this
the
isn't
community.
this isn't an event where like the fair where you make money on it, where you can pay people. He's like, I'm doing this out of just because I think it'd be great for the community. So he walked away from that. He got a hold of Mason. I think I actually might have got him connected with Mason
Yeah.
because I worked with the gentleman at the time, and I was like, hey, get a hold of him, make it happen. Talk to him. Mason's like, yeah, we can do it at our park. No big deal.
Yeah,
And-
I hope they continue to do that this summer because I was there last summer on a couple of those movie nights and it was a good time.
Yeah, it is a good time.
You know,
And it's
kids go out there and they enjoy it. You know, there's no drive-in movie theaters around anymore. I mean, Cuba I think still has theirs, but I don't know if they're operational.
no, it's
but-
not operational.
Yeah, so
Not. And it's a free event. Anyone can go. And yeah, how cool. You get to go sit in a lawn chair or sit in the back of a pickup truck.
Right.
And you get to watch just whatever. Movie.
Yeah.
Nice day.
And it
Awesome.
helps. It helps the community. It helps the city of the park, because the park board, they do popcorn and nachos and stuff there.
Yeah, that's right.
So you could buy that. So that's actually helping the park out
Yeah.
to pay the lights. You know that they don't charge them for the lights. You know, so the money they bring in by the food, yeah, they're making a little bit of money, but that's just to pay for the lights.
It goes back into the community.
Goes back, right back into
exactly.
the park, and they're trying to get new playground stuff right now, make it better, and
Yeah.
you know. So Rosebud's all about the community. It's not about money.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and you really do see that.
You know.
The people that are in our community right now that are doing better, it's great to see.
Speaking of which, I wanted to give a shout out to some folks that are listening for the first annual Easter parade in Rosebud.
Okay.
For that Mason organized. He had called me one day and said, you know, typically most places do an Easter egg hunt. Why don't we do something different? Why don't we do an Easter parade? I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it, you know?
And we did that once when COVID hit.
Right. Yeah. And then COVID hit. So that kind of, you know, Mason had that idea there. And so I said, let's do it. So we started organizing that. And then obviously, you know, he lost his life. And so it was kind of up in the air whether we were going to do it. But we are, you know, the community is coming together and helping the city, you know, the police department and the park put it together. And that's this Friday. So.
Oh, okay, cool.
There's-
I'll make sure to get this clip out
Yeah.
before that.
Yeah, get it out because it's Friday. The parade lineup is at 4:30, and it's going to be lining up at the Rosebud RV Park, where Jerry Reinhold owns the Rosebud RV Park. So off of Rosebud
On that
Avenue.
side street there?
Yeah, on the side street, Rosebud.
So
Avenue.
floats will do that.
Yeah,
Is it a-
so you can do your own float. Businesses can, you know, you can drive through in a vehicle, a side by side. You know,
I didn't know this.
Yeah,
I would get the fitness parlor involved.
get it involved, man. Put something together.
Friday at 4:30.
Friday at 4:30 is lineup. Go to where the Rosebud RV Park entrance is. They're on Rosebud Avenue.
You don't even have to tell anyone to sign
Well,
up.
so if you go to the city's page, Victoria, I think I might butcher her last name here, Surig. She's a volunteer firefighter for Beaufort Leslie Fire.
Okay.
Her number is listed on the flyer that I put out on the City of Rosebud's page. Reach out to her to pre-register for the lineup, but lineup is at 4:30, and it's obviously not a deal breaker if you don't call her at a time. We'll get you in the parade as long as you're there on time. But following that parade, the Easter Bunny's going to be in the parade. Jerry Reinhold has a some sort of like fun like kids train that he used for Christmas events. The Easter Bunny's going to be in that train, and so there's going to be, you know, obviously first responder vehicles there with their lights and all that good stuff, side by sides, horses I think even are coming,
Well,
and then we're going to be going all the way to the park. So we'll be throwing out candy in a tradition.
is it on the side street?
Yeah. So It's going to start on Rosebud Avenue. We'll go all the way to Highway T. We'll cross Highway T, go all the way down to where Gaston County 911 Communications is, which is Cedar Street. You'll make a left on Cedar Street, go all the way down towards like Jeff Blankenship's, the old school, and then you'll make a right on Red Oak and go in front of the old school, kind of around the park.
Yep.
And there's that gravel lot that goes, the gravel drive that goes through the park. And we'll drive through there, make a left back on Rosebud Avenue again, and then you will get down to Park Street. You'll make a left on Park Street and continue past the American Legion by the park. And that's kind of where the parade will end. But following the parade, we'll have games and stuff set up for kids. There'll be a bounce house. I think Pioneer is generously donating the bounce house and getting that set up for us. So there's going to be candy prizes. There'll be food. The park board is going to be selling food. So, and then at 7 p.m., there's going to be a quick service, church service on the ball field.
Oh, cool.
So
Mason.
yeah, well, just in general,
Oh, it's just a church service.
just yeah, we talked about, we had the pastor from Emmanuel Lutheran at our meeting to organize the event, and he had talked about he had a planned church service that evening at 7. It's like, if you're comfortable with it, why don't we just have we're gonna have a bunch of people there. Why don't we just have, it's Good Friday, why don't we just have church service right there on the ball diamond?
Yeah.
We're gonna have a bunch of people there already. I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
So he agreed to it. So at about 7 o'clock, they're going to start that service, and may probably get done at about 8, I think. So, but it's going to be a good time. A lot of games.
This is honestly the first time I'm hearing about it. Now, I will
Gotta
say,
get out more, man.
well,
Are you on Facebook?
Yeah, don't you have Facebook?
it's weird that I haven't seen it,
No,
but I also don't have kids, so maybe that
Right, yeah.
also plays into it. So when I see something about Easter, it's kind of
Right.
just like, it doesn't like trigger me to look at it. And obviously, if I had a kid, I'd be wanting to take them to some
Right.
stuff like that. People will probably be telling me more about it.
right.
But I do like to be involved in
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good event. It's our first first one. I think we're going to do it annually, called basically the annual Mason Griffith Memorial Easter Parade, something to that effect.
Cool.
So, like I said, plenty of games for the kids, prizes, and a bounce house. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff for the kids. And like I said, it's good for businesses too. They can put a float in the parade or just drive a vehicle with your a sign or a decal or something. It's going to be fun. Throw out candy to the kids.
There'll be food and
There'll be food and stuff. Well, the only thing we ask is that if you're in the parade, do not throw out Easter eggs because it leaves a mess and it's kind of,
Yeah.
it's a bit of a task to get that cleaned up afterwards. So just throw out candy like you typically would in like our normal fair parade or anything like that. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I almost don't even know if the need for candy would be a thing because they could probably just
Right.
do it all. How they got the trunk or treats or
Right.
like something like that kind of style where you could just,
Right.
if you wanted to give out candy or some type of Easter treats, everybody could, because a lot of floats are going to park, right?
Yeah.
At the end of it.
Yeah, so I imagine that they would, at the end of the parade route, they'll just find a spot to park, and then they'll probably come up to the park and
Yeah.
kind of
Participate. Sure.
So,
How cool.
but more the merrier. We want people there, and we want it to be a good event. So
Yeah. I think it'd be a good
yeah.
turnout.
So parade lineups at 4:30. I'm trying to remember the exact time. I have to look at the flyer. I'm trying to remember the exact time they were talking about starting the parade.
Well, I'll get this clip out today.
Yeah, get it out today, and then if you can on your platform, just share. It's on the flyer's on our Facebook page for the City of Rosebud. Just share that if you can, and
Yeah, maybe I think there'd be a way I can like embed the link to that
Yeah.
event
yeah,
in it also, so I can
be
share
cool.
the clip and then try to embed it or something.
yeah, that's fine.
I'll figure something out. Well, you guys want to wrap it up?
Yeah, it's up to you.
I think we've had a pretty good podcast.
pretty good.
Thank you guys so much for coming out.
Thanks for having
Oh
us.
yeah, thanks for having us, man.
I think everybody's really going to like it. I think
Good.
we talk about
A lot of things,
different
right?
things, but the whole kind of my thought process behind this was like kind of like a back to blue thing, especially with everything that's going on right now. I think there needs to be more like openness about supporting it and
Right.
backing the blue, and we did see it like whenever this event happened.
Oh, it was.
The
Phenomenal.
It was. It really just.
unreal almost.
You're almost at a loss of words, or at least
Yeah.
I was, because it's like you have something so terrible that happened, and you have this community come. I wouldn't expect it anywhere else. Like these citizens came together overwhelmingly and backed us for sure.
Yeah.
And we appreciate it. I want everybody to know that we put in a lot of time, a lot of hours in our job, and we sacrifice a lot for our families just to be able to do what we do. And we enjoy what we do. Stressful times, but we do enjoy it. and we do it for the citizens. But we appreciate the support whenever we need it because we're human too. So you know, something like this, it really shook us. You know,
Yeah.
That's what I love about our community is
Yeah.
they still support us.
That
makes me proud to work here. You know,
That's what I was going to say. It makes you proud to be where you're
Parts of
from.
the nation, they don't support them.
Yeah.
right.
They're
Something bad like that happens, you don't get
You know,
this
and
type
you-
of memorial.
You would
They
think
still
something
have
like
a-
this that happens, you know, it makes some people want to run from this profession.
Yeah.
And, you know, it makes you think about it. It really does. But seeing the support that we got from our citizens, it makes me want to dive in even more.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
that,
cool.
for me
Okay.
personally, you know, like it gives you goosebumps. And it gets me emotional because of just the overwhelming support, the people that actually truly care.
Yeah.
Because it gets hard for us because we deal with people on a regular basis that most of the time don't necessarily like us or want to deal with us because of whatever reason. They're committing crimes or whatever the case is. But the amount of people that do care and the amount of people that do appreciate us, it goes a long way with us. Like it means a lot.
And it really, this right now has really shown
Yeah.
the amazing support. The amount of flags
Yeah.
I seen flown, the amount of businesses that switched their bulbs to blue.
If there was any question whether this community supported law enforcement, there's not anymore.
Yeah, right.
So
It's awesome. Even I started flying more flag. Like I used to have a flag out front. I got tired of going out and fixing it all the time. But after that, I was like, why am I not doing this?
right.
Why am I not doing this? So,
But-
yeah, it is awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I want you guys to sign my banner before you guys get out of
We
here.
can do it.
Sign my banner, put Gascony County Sheriff Department too.
Perfect.
And thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
See you
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Hey, and if you guys are still listening, make sure you guys like and subscribe, share it with your friends. I'm at 315. I need to get to 1,000. So get me there, you guys.
Whoa.
See ya.